distinguished guests and delegates. With great joy and immense exultation, we feel privileged to extend our warm welcome to all presented here to commence the kick-off meeting for local stakeholders of the SriLanka project.
As a country in the phase of development, Sri Lanka will meet a vast energy requirement in the near future. To fulfill the energy requirement and remain sustainable, Sri Lanka will have to move to renewable energy. To boost the ability of Sri Lanka to move towards renewable energy and to address the skill gap in the areas of renewable technologies, the project THREE-Lanka, Training Hub for Renewable Energy Technologies in Sri Lanka, was launched with active participation of 4 European universities, 5 Sri Lankan universities, 1 government body and 1 professional body in energy sector.
Ladies and gentlemen, at the beginning of the kick-off meeting, let's stand up for the national anthem.
Thank you all. To begin with the inauguration ceremony, we may have honor of our most distinguished at the head table. We may cordially invite Honorable Minister Mr. Dalasalaha Peruma, the Vice Chancellor Senior Professor Suji Wamarasena, Dr. Indika Pereira, the Acting Head of the Mechanical and Manufacturing Department of University of Ruhuna, Professor Rahul Atlage, Dean, Faculty of Graduate Studies and Research, Sri Lanka Institute of Information and Technology. Coordinator of International Affairs, University of Ruhuna, Professor Vasanta Kumara. THREE-Lanka Project Coordinator, Dr. Udayanga Galapatti. THREE-Lanka Project Manager, Dr. Kumar Jayavikrama. Dr. Harsa Suryaraji, the Dean, Faculty of Engineering, University of Ruhuna. To mark the commencement of the inauguration ceremony, let's light up the traditional oil lamp. We may have the honor of the Chief Guest, Honorable Minister of Power, Mr. Dallas Salha Peruma,
Senior Professor Sujiv Amarasena, Vice Chancellor, University of Ruhuna,
Professor Saman Chandana, Deputy Vice Chancellor, University of Ruhuna,
Professor Rahul Atalage, Dean, Faculty of Graduate Studies and Research, Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology,
Professor A. Adbhutraja, Dean, Faculty of Engineering, University of Jaffna,
Dr. Harsha Suryarachi, Dean, Faculty of Engineering, University of Ruhuna,
Dr. Indika Pereira, the Acting Head, Department of Mechanical and Manufacturing Engineering, Faculty of Engineering, University of Ruhuna,
Dr. Udayanga Galapatti, Sri Lanka Project Coordinator,
Dr. Kumar Jayavikrama, THREE-Lanka Project Manager,
Professor Vasanta Kumara, Coordinator of International Affairs, University of Ruhuna,
Mrs. Sewandi Apa, European Union Delegation for Sri Lanka and Maldives,
Professor Musatik, Southeastern University,
Dr. Prasant Gunawardana, University of Peradeniya,
Mr. Nimal Pereira, Sri Lanka Energy Managers Association,
Dr. Chandan Pereira, former Dean, Faculty of Engineering, University of Ruhuna,
Mr. Harsha Wickramasinghe, Sri Lanka Sustainable Energy Authority.
much.
To commence the event, may we have the honor of Senior Professor Sujiva Amarasena, the Vice Chancellor of University of Ruhuna, to extend the welcome speech. He is a person of distinct vision and fountainhead of illuminating ideas, an idol of knowledge, experience, and inspiration to all of us.
Good morning to all of you. It is my pleasant task and duty to deliver the welcome address in this inauguration ceremony or the kick-off meeting of the EU Erasmus Plus SriLanka project, which is for training hub for renewable energy technologies in Sri Lanka. Garu Vidulu Balaha Balashakti Amritumani සියලුම ආරාධිත අමුත්තනේ මාගේ පිළිගැනීමේ කතාව මා ඉංග්‍රීසියෙන් කිරීමට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා ජාත්‍යන්තර කණ්ඩායමක් අප සමග රැඳී ඉන්න නිසා මාර්ගගත ක්‍රමය ඔස්සේ. I will continue my welcome address in English. I think it's extremely important for all of us to understand that energy is a challenge for the entire world. It's a global challenge. And actually that challenge is all about survival of the mankind in the future, because we all need energy and entire world need to be saturated with energy one day. Therefore, while we are trying to do many things and overcome the energy gaps in the entire world, we've been facing with major changes in the climate and global warming as a direct and indirect result of some of these activities. And therefore, all the researchers in the university systems all over the world and all the countries in the world need to cooperate to manage this major issue threatening the survival of the mankind in the future. And that's for the survival of the future generations in the world. So we need to find new energy sources and manage energy sources. And therefore, this particular project, the THREE-Lanka project, which is mainly an educational project, but that will have end results, which will contribute towards economy and development in Sri Lanka and the rest of the world one day. It will do a gap analysis of human resource skills needed for this particular sector in the world and in Sri Lanka, and then of course develop training programs that would be needed to develop those human resources, including the needs of the industry, and followed by development of continuous professional development programs required for existing human resource pool in the countries, and collaborate with industry as well as partners in the European Union, and subsequently go on to fill this skills gap. So hopefully this project will one day be a landmark project for this country and for the relationships between Sri Lanka and European Union. That will help not only Sri Lanka but also European Union and the survival of the mankind one day with the gaps addressed in research and human resource skills gaps. Therefore, it is my pleasant duty today to deliver the welcome address, Honorable Minister. I think Honorable Minister of Power and Energy, Honorable Dalla Peruma, had been a supporter of University of Ruhuna and also entire higher education system for decades. Perhaps for about at least 4 decades, to the best of my knowledge. And he's been helping us whenever we have a problem. Very recently in the development of Faculty of Allied Science Construction, when we needed power supply lines very quickly. He was helping us. Sir, I know all of us have only 24 hours to work, but I know those 24 hours are not enough for you. Despite that, you found time to attend this meeting today. And I warmly welcome you for this meeting on inauguration of the THREE-Lanka project at Jetwing Lighthouse Hotel in Galle. Although not with us, two honorable ministers, the State Minister of Renewable Energy, Minister Duminda Disanayaka, and also Honorable Minister for Capital Market Development, Minister Ajit Niwad Cabral, at the last minute were not able to come because I think His Excellency President is going towards Anuradhapura where they have to be there, and they have sent their greetings. I wish to thank them at the outset. Then I wish to welcome our distinguished guests from universities overseas. I believe Vice Chancellors, Deans and Academics and Administrators are joining us from 4 international universities. Glasgow Caledonian University from United Kingdom and Northumbria University in Newcastle, UK, and Politecnico di Torino from Italy, and the University of Valahia Târgu, Romania. I welcome all of you for joining us online for this meeting, the kick-off meeting for the EU Erasmus project on THREE-Lanka project. But not only for joining, but also being partners in the development of the project proposal that was submitted to the EU grant, Erasmus projects, and ultimately winning this grant on a competitive basis, close to 1 million euros, with the University of Ruhuna being the lead university in the team. And I wish to thank all of you for helping the 9 universities which have joined together to put this proposal forward to EU grants. Then let me also welcome our academics, administrators, the deans, the vice chancellors who may be joining us online, and other heads of departments from Sri Lankan universities, University of Peradeniya, University of Jaffna, the Southeastern University of Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology, and Sri Lanka Sustainable Energy Authority and Sri Lanka Energy Managers Association for getting together to put forward to address project proposal to address this gap in skills and human resource development. Next, I believe there are lots of government officials from ministries relevant to the energy sector and departments, high officials. I wish to welcome all of you for this meeting, and I hope you will find this meeting very fruitful and you will be able to contribute towards this, the issues within the energy sector in the panel discussions and subsequently in the presentations during this meeting. Then let me welcome our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Saman Chandan Edirivira, the Deans of University of Ruhuna, Dean Faculty of Engineering Dr. Harsh Suryarachi, and other heads of department, head of the Department of Mechanical Engineering Dr. Indika Pereira, and all the other academics and senior professors from the University of Ruhuna for this meeting. Dr. Vasantha Kumara, Senior Professor Vasantha Kumara has been a live wire in coordinating all our international projects as Director Center. Professor Vasantha, thank you very much for going through lots of difficult times and issues in managing this entire project, which I think need to be discussed with the Honorable Minister subsequently, and try and see whether you could find easy ways out of some of the problems. All professors and senior professors from other universities and executive staff from our own university and other universities, the bursars, auditors, and other assistant registrars from University of Ruhuna. All of you are welcome for this meeting, and I hope you will be able to contribute for discussions during the meeting. Dr. Nihal Hevage from University of Colombo needs to be mentioned specially for his contribution for the development of this project proposal. Dr. Udyanka Galapatti, coordinator, of course he needs no welcome because he welcomed me this morning in Lighthouse Hotel, but I saw him being here from early morning, working hard, and thank you very much for being the leader for this project and getting this project as a lead university for University of Ruhuna and going through all the hell, I think, when we were trying to negotiate the MOU to sign on time to get the project grant. And ladies and gentlemen, finally, all of you in the audience, let me welcome all of you for this meeting. Now, in the end, I would really like to mention few things. I hope this project will be able to give the research output that is required and also the educational program output that is required to manage this human resource or develop this human resource pool within about 5 to 10 years in this country. And I hope that will subsequently help this country saturate with required energy. And I believe Sri Lanka would need something like 34,000 megawatts of power by the year 2050, according to an analysis and study done by the UNDP and Asian Development Bank. And I believe Sri Lanka is at the moment producing 3,700 megawatts of power using traditional energy sources, hydropower and thermal power, and very little contribution from renewable energy sources. I believe the project proposal, this study has contributed to explore more knowledge, and have suggested that Sri Lanka would be able to produce something like 16,000 megawatts of power using solar energy and another 15,000 megawatts of power using wind energy. And I believe we will develop the human resources required to achieve that target in 2050 over the next 10 to 15 years. And with that, although we might not be able to see that kind of development in our lifetime, our future generations, our children and our grandchildren will be able to see that one day in Sri Lanka. In the future, Honorable Minister, sir, I think we need to sort out at the cabinet level and facilitate a mechanism to develop MOUs, memoranda of understanding, on a particular format that doesn't affect the country's political and or threaten country's political interest and economic interests. I believe those that threaten those interests should be studied very carefully, while projects like this, especially Erasmus grants, need to be streamlined very quickly and finally approved by the cabinet to meet deadlines required by the international donors, because these are basically on research, on education development grants, and thus has nothing to do with the that challenges the political and economic interests. The secondly, I believe in relation to this whole thing, sir, the PPP model, the private public partnership models have to be promoted, and the universities should be given some kind of freedom, and maybe all the other state institutions as well, but within a limited framework, to enter into PPP agreements to develop renewable energy sector. And I mean, certainly as University of Ruhuna has become as a Vice Chancellor for the last 2 years, I have met many organizations and individuals who have offered financial support for development of especially solar energy, using surface areas available in our massive roofs in the university sector with 10 faculties. However, we are not able to easily go through some of those project proposals because we have to deal with the government machinery. I'm not quite against the government machinery, but I think that needs to be resolved with time so that we can go through these partnerships development very quickly. Ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Minister, with that, let me conclude my welcome address and thank you very much for being here today, and I hope you will find the final discussions and the subsequent presentations very useful and will give you novel ideas to think about in the future or the next decade or so. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. THREE-Lanka is a project to develop skill level in the renewable energy sector in Sri Lanka under the European Union Erasmus Plus grant. This will never be a simple task, but yet achievable with an outstanding commitment. The University of Ruhuna, as the applicant university, work hard for this.
The major character who brought the big project to reality, we may have the great pleasure to invite Dr. Udayanga Galapatti, Sri Lanka project lead and the coordinator, to brief the project to the gathering.
Main objective of this presentation, this speech, is to brief you about THREE-Lanka project, our intentions, our plans, why this project is important to Sri Lankan context. This project proposal was developed with the collaboration with all 11 partners, 4 European partners, as well as 7 Sri Lankan partners, which include 5 Sri Lankan universities, University of Jaffna, Southeastern University, SLIT, and University of Peradeniya, and University of Ruhuna, and Sri Lanka Energy Managers Association, and as well as Sri Lanka Sustainable Energy Authority will participate for this project from Sri Lanka, and we have 4 European partners. One is Glasgow Caledonian University, where I have completed my PhD, and as well as University of Northumbria, Newcastle, and Polito from Italy, and UVT from Romania. So these are this project proposal was we have urged in 2020, and we were succeeded. And it has some objectives. What we have found when we were putting the proposal forward, what we found was there are skill gaps within the renewable energy sector. We need to address these gaps. To address these gaps, first we need to properly undertake a skill gap analysis. So one of the main objectives of the proposal is to identify the skill gaps through a proper analysis. And if you wanted to develop a skill level on any sector, we need to do a comprehensive analysis. So in our initial analysis, we found when we wanted to develop any sector, there are 3 levels we have to, we have to concentrate. For when we try to develop the technology-wise. So technology-wise, there are 3 skill levels. One is project manager level. The second level is the engineers level who are conducting the, first one is project managers who are planning the projects. And the second level is engineers who are working and managing. The third level is very important, that is the skilled workers who are undertaking the work. So that those three areas we need to be considered. So that's why one of our main objective is to identify the gaps in each area, the skill gaps. The second, and we are based on these gaps, we expected to develop the course materials. So that's to develop the training program on PV and other renewable sources is our second objective. And the third one is we can improve the way of delivering the programs by improving the quality of the teaching and learning process. And also, the next thing we should target, if we are country, literacy level is very high, but when it is come to employment, foreign employment, those things, it is important we will consider the skill levels improvement. So when we setting up the programs, we need to consider the recognition and accreditation. So for these three areas, these three skill categories, whatever the certificate courses we are developing, we will try to get the accreditation from within the Sri Lanka as well as outside the Sri Lanka. And also, we can learn the current practices of the European countries. That is important to, they have already learned lessons from their, their current previous work. So we can incorporate that. So those are the main objectives when we setting up the specific objectives for this project proposal. And so by having these objectives, we have developed the proposal, and finally, at the end result, we will have 5 training centers across the country which cover overall area within Sri Lanka, which include Galle, and from our side, from University of Ruhuna, Kilinochchi, it's from Jaffna, and also Colombo, Peradeniya, and Ampara. So all the most of the areas within the country we will be covering with these 5 centers, and also there is this course we are delivering on online basis. That means it is accessible to most of the people. At the same time, the practical programs we can conduct at these centers, which we are developing at these 5 centers. So that is now from the COVID we have learned now. We have the experience in attending the online courses. So because of the online based delivery mode, more people can participate, attend, and it's served for the wider society. So that's why we have chosen that mode of learning, and we have we believe based on what we should do is, in future, if we wanted to address the renewable energy technology gaps within the country, we should focus on these 5 centers. These 5 centers, they are within the country. We should not repeat anything. We have a small country. We need to set these 5 centers, and regularly we need to update the programs offered by these centers. So from the government side, we will believe that with the coordination, in future these centers will be developed, and it will be, this starting point is this grant, but it will be developed in future as regional centers. It will not serve not only for the Sri Lanka, for other South Asia as well, because in our program it is online delivery, and we have some sort of practical work. We have going to integrate the virtual testing facilities and so on. So it is possible to deliver certain courses on online basis for the regional aspect as well. So if we consider whatever the capacity building project, it's one of the EU policy as well. It should be directly matched with if it is directly matched with the government policy, it will give more benefit to the country, society. So if we consider our proposal, our work, our involvement, our outcome will directly support for future energy sector direction of Sri Lanka. So for example, we have targeted 70% of the energy demand from renewable energy sources from 2030. To achieve that target, we need the skill level development within the country. So in our program, our development, our work will definitely assist for that skill level development and finally to achieve the targets of the country, national targets. And also, we have the capacity. Within the country, we have the capacity, we have the resources. Then to use these resources, what we are lacking is, the technology transfer, not only more than the technology transfer. So in our program, when I am discussing with you our methodology, you will understand we have clear methodology to transfer these technology to the general public as well. So that is very important for education program to transfer whatever at least portion, it's one part of the technology to the general public as well. So it is one of a main concern within our program. So we as a country, if you wanted to address this target, if you wanted to go for this target, we need the infrastructure development. We have to meet the technical challenges, and also we need to identify what is the best incentive scheme when we introduce the RE technologies. And also local research and development is very important. That means if I see that there is a government target or 70% renewable energy integration, we need to see what areas, what technology should be developed, and if the national level research done should be targeted on that. For example, if it is a UK system is if there is a national level target, that the particular year the grant schemes are targeted on that particular subject area. So we also need to think about that sort of mechanism. The research should focus on national development, national targets. So, and also we need to, when we depend our RE technologies within, outside the country, for example, if you want in my understanding, according to my knowledge, most of the wind turbine parks, so those projects, few we had, but those are consulted by India. So we need to improve our knowledge, know-how, and we have to take on our part. So in this context, to address these challenges, it is important us to conduct these type of capacity building programs, and with the assistance with the government. I'm really happy that our minister is with us. So we hope to in future we will have close contact, and we will definitely address these issues. And also we wanted to bring you, so this if we consider why this concept, this type of projects are important, now I have presented you our concept. That means we wanted to develop the skill sector. Now if we consider the Sri Lanka, we have the same sort of areas we have already identified in the national level: information communication, ICT skill, board and shipbuilding industry, tourism. So all those sectors needed, we need to identify the gaps, and these skill gaps should be matched. You can see number of articles, number of news. There are unemployment within the Sri Lanka, but there are industry needs as well, because there is a mismatch with the industry requirement as well as the available skills. So that's why these type of a skill development program, by considering the targeted sectors are needed. So there we have targeted one, now renewable energy sector. We believe in future this methodology will be incorporated, and our methodology, our concept is the introduction of collaborative technology hubs. Now what is the current practice in the country? The current practice is we have curriculum for the graduates and also postgraduates, and other education or vocational training, they have another curriculum, but there is no any coordination. So when we targeted the particular sector skill development, we need that collaboration for developing. So that's why what I believe is, now from this introduction of this concept with our program, we expected to develop 5 training centers for addressing the renewable energy sector skill gaps in Sri Lanka. So likewise, we have to consider the sector by sector and consider of skill gap analysis, as well as the introduction of the certificate program to address these type of gaps. So for us, with our collaboration, we have a renewable energy technology training hub under this particular project, and another one we have targeted, that is Southern Center for Naval Studies and Shipping. So we are in the same concept we have considered as the University of Ruhuna. We will believe that we will get the right collaboration to set up these centers for national development. So, and also, this is the one very important thing, we should transfer knowledge to at least the area within our university setup. For example, if we can introduce the training certificate for solar roof installation, if we deliver that from the Sinhala medium, the area within the faculty or university setup, the people will learn at least. Then they will try to use that technology. So those things have to be targeted. So in our program, we have targeted that. So that's the concept we wanted to bring you. And to achieve these objectives, we have the gap analysis and also program design and also virtual lab development and also e-learning technology development, as well as the resource and the hub infrastructure development, and also training of the trainers. And also we have targeted, as I told you, the center recognition. It's a very important area we have considered. And also we have considered the quality controlling mechanism for this program, as well as this current project is properly, we have a management plan as well. So which will, we believe at the end, finally we will be able to cater the skill gaps of the certain areas where the stakeholders are trained personnel, trade and industry, particularly SME sector, and as well as academic and non-academic participants. So thank you very much for your kind attention, and we have this Q&A session. So any questions we can ask within that session, and so I will conclude my presentation from now.
Lecturer, University of Ruhuna on the stage to brief the project in Sinhala.
සුබෝදෑසනක් සියලු දෙනාටම. මයි කාර්යභාරය වෙලා තියෙන්නේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ පුනර්ජනනීය බල ශක්ති තාක්ෂණය සඳහා පුහුණු කේන්ද්‍රස්ථානයක් පිළිබඳ ව්‍යාපෘතිය පිළිබඳව කෙටි හැඳින්වීමක් සිංහල මාධ්‍යයෙන් ගෙනීම. මම ප්‍රධාන අරමුණ සහ මොනවද වෙන්නේ කියලා කෙටි හැඳින්වීමක් කරන්නම්. අප සියලු දෙනාම දන්න විදිහට ඉදිරි අනාගතයේදී අප රට තුළ බල ශක්ති අර්බුදය නිර්මාණය අවදානමක් පවතිනවා. ඒත් එක්කම අපි දැනට භාවිතා කරන බල ශක්ති උත්පාදනය කිරීමේ ක්‍රම මගින් පරිසරයට ඉතා දැඩි හානියක් සිදු වෙනවා. එය අපේ ඉදිරි අනාගතයට බෙහෙවින් බලපෑමක් ඇති කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් මේ දේවල් ශ්‍රී ලංකා ජනරජය හඳුනගෙන ඒ සඳහා උපායමාර්ගික සැලසුම් කිහිපයක්ම ක්‍රියාත්මක කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒ අතරින් රජය 2050 වෙනකොට අපේ සම්පූර්ණ බල ශක්ති උත්පාදනය පුනර්ජනනී බල ශක්ති ප්‍රභවයන් මත යැපෙන්න සැලසුම් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ලංකාවේ තියෙන පාරිසරික තත්ත්වයන්ටත් මෙන්ම ගෝලීය පිහිටීමත් අනුව ලංකාවෙන් අපිට පුනර්ජනනී බල ශක්ති ප්‍රභවයන් කිහිපයක්ම අඳුර ගන්න පුළුවන්. ප්‍රධාන වශයෙන් සුළං සූර්ය හා ජලය පාදක කරගත් බල ශක්ති ප්‍රභවයන් මගින් අපිට විදුලි උත්පාදනය කිරීමේ හැකියාව බෙහෙවින් තියෙනවා. හැබැයි තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ තමයි අපිට මෙම දැනුම තිබ්බට ඒ අදාළ මානව සම්පත් කළමනාකරණය පිළිබඳව ගැටලු පවතිනවා අපේ රට තුළ. දැනුම ඒ අදාළ ශිල්පීන්ට නිසි ආකාරයෙන් ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඉතින් එම හේතුන් නිසා අපිට මේ රජය විසින් ගෙනලා තියෙන සැලසුම් ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීමේදී ගොඩාක් බලපෑම් ඇති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් අපේ මේ ව්‍යාපෘතිය තුළින් මේ බලපෑම් හොඳින් අවබෝධ කරගෙන ඒ සඳහා පිළියමක් තමයි කරලා තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් අපිට අවශ්‍ය මානව සම්පත මට්ටම් 3කින් හඳුනාගත්තා. අවශ්‍ය කාර්මික ශිල්පීන්, ඉංජිනේරුවන් මෙන්ම ව්‍යාපෘති කළමනාකරුවන්. මේ අදාළ පුද්ගල මේ මට්ටම් 3ට ගැලපෙන ආකාරයට අපි දැනුම මෙන්ම පුහුණුව මේම ව්‍යාපෘතිය හරහා ලබා දෙනවා. එතකොට අපි මේ සඳහා අපේ ලංකාව වටේ යුනිවර්සිටිස් 5ක් තියෙනවා. පහෙන් අපි සෙන්ටර්ස් 5ක් හදනවා. ඒ 5 තුලින් අදාළ දැනුම ඒ අදාළ ප්‍රජාවට ලබා දෙනවා. එතකොට බොහෝ වශයෙන් දැන් අපි උතුරු මැද බලාගත් තුලින් ගොඩක් ජනතාව දෙමළ මාධ්‍යයෙන් තමයි කටයුතු කරන්නේ. එතකොට අපි මේ පාඨමාලාව දැනුම් බෙදා දීම දෙමළ මාධ්‍යයෙන් සිදු කරනවා. එතකොට දකුණු පළාත මේ පැත්ත ගත්තොත් සිංහල මාධ්‍ය. ඒ වගේම ඉංග්‍රීසි මාධ්‍යනොත් අපි ඒ අදාළ මට්ටම් වලට අදාළ විදියට දැනුම ලබා දීම සැලසුම් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මේ සඳහා අපිට දේශීය මෙන්ම යුරෝපීය උසස් අධ්‍යාපන ආයතන වලින් දායකත්වය ලබා දෙනවා. එතකොට මේ පාඨමාලාවලට දාලා දැනුම විශේෂයෙන්ම ඒ වගේම උපකරණ සියලු දේවල් අපිට යුරෝපීය දායකත්වයෙන් අපිට ලැබෙනවා. ඉතින් මේත් එක්කම අපි ප්‍රධාන වශයෙන් මේ ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨ බල ශක්ති ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨයට හොඳින් දැනුම ඇති නිපුණ ශිල්පීන් දායාද කිරීම තමයි 2024 වෙනකොට ප්‍රධාන බලාපොරොත්තුව. මම හිතනවා මේ කරුණු ප්‍රමාණවත් ඇති කියලා. මොකද ජාත්‍යන්තර ප්‍රජාව ගොඩක් මේ සම්බන්ධ නිසා මේ විස්තර කිරීම මම හිතන්නේ ඉංග්‍රීසි මාධ්‍යයෙන් ගෙනියන එක වැදගත් වෙනවා. ඒ නිසා මම හිතනවා සියලු දෙනාටම අවබෝධ වෙන්නේ නැති කියලා. අසස් සිට ඔබ සැමට ස්තුතියි.
Thank you, sir. It will now be the turn of Mr. U. Anuraj, lecturer, University of Jaffna, to extend the project brief in Tamil.
குழுமியிருக்கும் அனைவருக்கும் இந்நேர வந்தனங்கள். இலங்கையின் சக்தி வளத்துறையில் ஒரு பெரிய பாய்ச்சலை உண்டாக்குவதற்காக நாம் முன்னெடுத்திருக்கும் இந்த ஸ்ரீலங்கா ப்ராஜெக்டில் ஒரு சிறிய தமிழ் மொழியிலான முன்னோட்டத்தை கொடுப்பதற்கு இங்கு வந்துள்ளேன். இலங்கை திருநாட்டில் நாம் அனைவரும் சுமூகமாகவும் மகிழ்ச்சியாகவும் வாழ்வதற்கு பல தேவைப்பாடுகள் இருந்த போதிலும் மிக முக்கிய தேவைப்பாடாக சக்தி வள தேவை காணப்படுகின்றது. அந்த வகையில் ஆய்வுகளின் அடிப்படையில் எதிர்வரும் 2050 ஆண்டு அளவில் நமது இந்த சக்தி வள தேவையை மீள் உருவாக்கம் செய்யக்கூடிய சக்தி வளங்களை பயன்படுத்தி நிறைவேற்றுவதற்காக நமது அரசு, இலங்கை அரசாங்கம் வேலை திட்டங்களை முன்னெடுத்து வருகின்றது. அப்படி இருந்த போதிலும் இந்த முன்மொழிவினை நிறைவேற்றுவதற்கு முன்னுள்ள மிகப்பெரிய இடர்பாடாக காணப்படுவது மீளுருவாக்கம் செய்ய தகுந்த சக்தி வளங்களை முன்னெடுப்பதற்கு எம்மிடமுள்ள தொழில்நுட்பம் சார்ந்த அறிவு மற்றும் திறன் என்பவை போதாவையாக காணப்படுகின்றன. இதனை சீர் செய்யும் முகமாக இந்த த்ரீலங்கா ப்ராஜெக்ட் ஆனது எமது மக்களின் அல்லது எமது பிரஜைகளின் 3 வகையான பிரிவினரை நோக்குகின்றது. முதலாவதாக பொறியியலாளர், தொழில்நுட்பவியலாளர்கள், பொறியியலாளர்கள் மற்றும் சக்திசார் முகாமையாளர்கள். இவர்களின் செயல்முறை அறிவு மற்றும் தொழில்நுட்ப அறிவினை மேம்படுத்துவதனூடாக இந்த நாட்டின் இந்த சக்தி வளம் சார்ந்த இடைவெளியினை சீர் செய்யலாம் என எதிர்பார்த்து இந்த முன்மொழிவானது மேற்கொள்ளப்படுகின்றது. இதன் பாரிய வெற்றியை உறுதிப்படுத்துவதற்கு எமது புலமையாளர் சமூகம் மற்றும் எமது அமைச்சர்கள் மற்றும் அமைச்சரவையினர் தொடர்ந்து எமக்கு ஆதரவினை வழங்குவார்கள் என எதிர்பார்த்து இச்சிறு அறிமுகத்தை நிறைவு செய்கின்றேன். நன்றி.
Thank you, sir. Increasing energy demand is a critical situation a government may go through. To overcome the struggle, Sri Lanka's government has provided policy direction to produce 70% of energy demand from renewable energy sources by 2030. Therefore, we feel honored to have with us the Honorable Minister of Power, Mr. Dalasala Peruba, as the chief guest of the ceremony. Sir, you hardly need any introduction with your notable work in numerous capacities.
සිළු දෙනාටම ධෛර්ය සම්පන්න දවසක් වේවා. Good morning everybody. I humbly request permission from our overseas friends to conduct my speech in her Sinhalese. Thank you very much. රුණු විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයේ උපකුලපති ජේෂ්ඨ මහාචාර්ය සුජීව අමරසේන මැතිතුමා ප්‍රදාන සම්භාවනීය ආරාධිත අමුත්තනි මිත්‍රෝනේ මෙම සමාරම්භක උළෙලට විශේෂ ආරාධිතයා ලෙස මාහට ඇරයුම් කිරීම ගැන ශ්‍රී ලංකා ව්‍යාපෘතියට ප්‍රථමයෙන්ම මගේ ගෞරවාදර ස්තුතිය පිරිනවන්න කැමතියි. ඉතාමත් වැදගත් ඒ වගේම ඉතාමත් වටිනා මෙම අවස්ථාවට සහභාගී වීමට ලැබුණු ආරාධනය මම පිළිගත් ඉතාම සතුටින්. අත්තටම කියනවා නම් දේශපාලන ජීවිතය තුළ එවැනි අවස්ථා අපට විරලයි. උත්සව, පිළිගැනීම්, සංවත්සර, මුල්ගල් තැබීම්, සමාප්ත උළෙලවල්, විවෘත කිරීම, අනුස්මරණ, උපහාර පිදීම් මෙවැනි එකී නොකී සියලුම ආකාරයේ ක්‍රියාකාරකම් වලින් සන්තුෂ්ත දේශපාලන සංස්කෘතියක් තුළ අවංකවම අනුප්‍රාණයක්, ප්‍රබෝධයක් වගේම තෘප්තියක් ලැබිය හැකි උත්සවීය අවස්ථාවකට සහභාගී වීමට ඇති සම්භාවිතාව ඊටාම අල්ප නිසාම නැවතත් මත් ශ්‍රී ලංකා ව්‍යාපෘතියට මේ මට ලබා දුන් සුවිශේෂී අවස්ථාව වෙනුවෙන් මගේ කෘතවේදීත්වය ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න කැමතියි. ඒ වගේම මේ අවස්ථාවේ මගේ සහෝදර රාජ්‍ය අමාත්‍ය දුමින්ද දිසානායක මැතිතුමා සහභාගී වීමේ විශේෂ උවමනාවෙන් හිටියත් අපේ උපකුලපතිතුමා සඳහන් කරා වගේම අද දවසේ අලුත් සහල් මංගල්‍ය වෙනුවෙන් අනුරාධපුර ප්‍රදේශයේදී සහභාගී වී යුතු නිසා එතුමාත් ඒ වගේම අජිත් නිමාඩ් කබ්‍රාල් රාජ්‍ය අමාත්‍යතුමාගේ සම්ප්‍රාප්තිය සිදු නොවන බව ඔබට සුබපතමින් දැනුම් දෙන ලෙස මගෙන් ඉල්ලීමක් කරා. එය මේ මොහොතේ මගේ වගකීමක් විදියටයි මම සලකන්නේ. මිතුරනි, වර්තමාන ලෝකය පුනර්ජනනීය බලශක්තියෙන් ස්වයං පෝෂිත වීමට නව මං සොයමින්, නව මං තනමින්, නව මං පරිහරණය කරන තැනකට ඉතාමත්ම ශීඝ්‍රයෙන් ගමන් කරමින් තිබෙන බව රහසක් නෙමෙයි. එබැවින් ගෝලීය ගම්මානයේ සමාජිකයෙකු වන අප රටටද එම ප්‍රවණතාවට එක්වීම ඥානාන්විත බව අප රටේ සියලුම පුරවැසියන්ට ගම්‍ය විය යුතුයි. 21 වෙනි ශතවර්ෂයේ ආරම්භයේ සිටම මෙවැනි හරිත අනුවර්තනයකට ලෝකය විශේෂයෙන්ම දියුණු සහ විශාල ආර්ථිකයක් ඇති රටවල් කඩිමුඩියේ සෝදනම් වන්නේ ඇයි? මානවයා තමගේ ප්‍රගමනය වෙනුවෙන් තාක්ෂණික දියුණුව තකා පරිසරයත් සමග ගැටෙමින් ශතවර්ෂ 3ක් ඉක්මවා පැමිණි ගමනේ අතුරුඵල අනාගත මානව පැවැත්මට බලපාන විශාලතම තර්ජනය බවට පත් වෙලා තිබෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒ අනතුර ගැන අවදි වුණු මානව හෘද සාක්ෂිය තමයි පමා වී හෝ මිනිසාට ඒ අවබෝධ කරගෙන නිවරදි මම් පෙතකට එළඹෙන්නට මඟ පෙන්වුවේ. ඔබට මතක ඇතේ හිටපු ඇමරිකානු උපජනාධිපති ඇල්ගෝ නිර්මාණය කළ වාර්තා චිත්‍රපටිය An Inconvenient Truth. වසර 2006 දී තිරගත වුණා විතරක් නෙමෙයි, ඒ වාර්තා චිත්‍රපටයට ඔස්කා සම්මානයෙන් පවා පිදුම් ලැබුවා. ඇල්ගෝ කාලගුණ විපර්යාස ගැන ලෝවැසියන් දැනුවත් කරන්නට ඉමහත් පරිශ්‍රයක් කැපකිරීමක් කළ චරිතයක්. ඔහුගේ එම ප්‍රයත්නයේ ප්‍රතිඵලයක් ලෙස කාලගුණික විපර්යාසයට එරෙහි සටනට ජනප්‍රිය සංස්කෘතිය තුළ වැදගත්කමක් සහ පිළිගැනීමක් වගේම දැඩි ව්‍යාප්තියක්ද ලැබුණා. වර්තමානය වන විට අපි කවුරුත් දන්න ස්වීඩන් ජාතික දියණිය ග්‍රේටා තන්බර්ග් වැනි ක්‍රියාකාරීන් එම සටනේ පෙරමුණගෙන ඉන්නවා. මෙම කාලගුණික විපර්යාසයට ඍජු ලෙස දැඩිම බලපෑමක් කළ හැකි බලශක්ති සහ ප්‍රවාහන යන ශේෂ්ඨ දෙක සලකමින්. මොකද මම එහෙම කියන්නේ අපේ රටේ පුනර්ජනනීය බලශක්තිය ආදේශ කරන්න උත්සාහ ගන්නේ කුලපතිතුමනි අපේ එනර්ජි සෙක්ටර් එකට විතරයි. හැබැයි අපි පොසිල ඉන්ධන අපි ට්‍රාන්ස්පෝර්ට් සෙක්ටර් එක දිහා බැලුවම අනිත් සෙක්ටර්ස් එක දිහා බැලුවම හතරෙන් එකක්වත් එනර්ජි සෙක්ටර් එකට අපි පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ සංවාදය තව පුළුල් කරන්න ඕන කියන කාරණාවයි මම ඔබට යෝජනා කරන්නේ. එනිසා බලශක්ති සහ ප්‍රවාහන යන ශේෂ්ත්‍ර දෙකම සලකමින් ඒ හරහා පරිසරයට වන හානි අවම කිරීම පිණිස මානව ලෝකයේගත් පියවරක් ලෙස තමයි මෙම පුනර්ජනනීය බලශක්තින් වලට වැඩි වශයෙන් අනුවර්තනය වීම සහ ඒවා ලොව පුරා විශාල වශයෙන් ප්‍රවර්ධනය කිරීම ආරම්භුනේ. මා ඉහතකී කරුණ ඔබට පැවසුවේ අප අද මේ සහභාගී වන වැඩසටහනේ වැදගත්කම සහ දැඩි අවශ්‍යතාවය ගැන පූර්විකාවක් ලෙසටයි. පුනර්ජනනීය බලශක්තියින්ට අනුවර්තනය වීම යුගයේ අවශ්‍යතාවයක්. අපේ රටේ විතරක් නෙමෙයි ලෝකේම අනාගතය අයිති වන්නේ පුනර්ජනනීය බලශක්තියින් වලටයි. පුනර්ජනනීය කී සැනින් සිවිල් පුරවැසියන්ට බොහෝ විට සිහියට නැගෙන්නේ මම මුලින් කිව්වා වගේම විදුලි බලය වෙනුවෙන් වැවෙන බලශක්තියින් ගැන පමණයි. නමුත් එහා කීප ගුණයක් අපිට ප්‍රවාහනය ඇතුළු අනිත් ශේෂ්ත්‍ර ගැන වෙනුවෙන් වැවෙන බව සිහියට නොනගෙන දෙයක්. යුරෝපා සංගමය පුනර්ජනනීය බලශක්තිය වෙනුවෙන් ඉතාමත් ප්‍රගතිශීලී පියවර රැසක්ගත් කලාපීය සහභාගීතාවයක් ඔවුන් ලොවට ඉතාමත් වටිනා පූර්වදර්ශ සපයමින් සිටිනවා. එම නිසා ඔවුන්ගේ අනුග්‍රහයෙන් ශ්‍රී ලංකා ව්‍යාපෘතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක වීම ඉතාම උචිතයි. මම මේ මොහොතේ අපේ රජය වෙනුවෙන් මේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා ව්‍යාපෘතිය සහ විශේෂයෙන් පුනර්ජනනීය බලශක්තියින් පිළිබඳව විශාල බරක් තබා කටයුතු කරන යුරෝපීය සංගමය අගය කිරීමට මේ වේදිකාව පාවිච්චි කරන්න කැමතියි. මෙතන ශ්‍රී ලංකාව බලශක්තියෙන් ස්වයංපෝෂිත වීම වගේම පුනර්ජනනීය බලශක්තියින්ට අනුවර්තනය වීමද වර්තමාන රජයේ ප්‍රධාන ප්‍රතිපත්තියක්. ඒ මුදුන්පත් කර ගැනීම සඳහා සමගාමීව ක්‍රියාත්මක වන වැඩසටහන් අතරට මෙම ශ්‍රී ලංකා ව්‍යාපෘතියට අග්‍ර ප්‍රමුඛත්වයක් හිමි විය යුතු බව මම විශ්වාස කරනවා. ඒ වෙනුවෙන් අපේ උපකුලපතිතුමත් ගලප්පති ආචාර්යතුමත් කරන ලැබූ ඉල්ලීම් විෂයභාර අමාත්‍යවරයා වශයෙන් මගේ ඇගයීමටද එකඟතාවයටද ලක්වන බව මේ මොහොතේ සඳහන් කරන්න කැමතියි. අප රටක් ලෙස හරිත පරිවර්තනයට දැනුවත් වෙමින් පවතිනවා. රාජ්‍යයක් ලෙසට ඒට අවශ්‍ය යටිතල පහසුකම් ගොඩනගමින් සිටිනවා. නමුත් අප මුහුණ දෙන දැඩි අභියෝගය තමයි මෙම පුනර්ජනනීය බලශක්ති තාක්ෂණය මෙහෙවීමට අවශ්‍ය නිපුණතාවෙන් පිරුණු පුහුණුව ලද මානව සම්පතක ඌර්ණතාවය. එයට එක් පිළියමක් ලෙස ප්‍රධාන පිළියමක් ලෙස අප සමාරම්භ කරන මෙම ව්‍යාපෘතිය ගමන් කරාවියයි මම දැඩිව විශ්වාස කරනවා. මම වරක් අපේ රටේ තෘතීය අධ්‍යාපනය වොකේෂනල් ට්‍රේනිං බාරව කැබිනට් ඇමති ධූරය දැරූ අවදියේ නිපුණතා සංවර්ධන ශේෂ්ත්‍රය පිළිබඳ ගැටලුව අවබෝධ කරගන්නටත් එයට තිරසාර විසඳුමක් සම්පාදනය කරන්නටත් අවකාශයක් පුද්ගලිකවම ලැබුණා. එම නිසා මා ඉතාමත් හොඳින් දන්නවා ශේෂ්ත්‍රයක සාර්ථකව නියැලීමට නිපුණතාවයක නැත්නම් විධිමත් පුහුණුවක ඇති අත්‍යවශ්‍යතාවය. ඒක අපි පිළිගැනීමක් අත්‍යවශ්‍ය කාරණාවක්. ඒ අනුව හරිත අනුවර්තනයට යන ගමනේ එයට අවශ්‍ය තාක්ෂණ ඥානයත් අප ශ්‍රම බලකායත් අතර ඇති දැඩි පරතරය පියවමින් තිරසාර සංවර්ධනය සඳහා රට මෙහෙවන්නට රජය පමණක් නෙමෙයි පුද්ගලික විශ්වවිද්‍යාලීය වගේම ජාත්‍යන්තරයේ සහයත් අපට අත්‍යවශ්‍යයි. මේ අපට තනිව යා හැකි ගමනක් නෙවෙයි. විසංවාද වෙනස්කම් පූර්ව නිගමන එදිරිවාදිකම් සාම්ප්‍රදායික දුප්පත් දේශපාලන දර්ශන මගහැර ඉවතලා අපි අත්වල් බැඳගත්තොත් පමණමයි රටක් විදියට ලොවක් ලෙසට පැවැත්මක් තිබෙන්නේ. මන්ද අවසානයේ මේ මිහිමත ජීවත් වන සියලු මිනිසුන්ගේ පැතුම් එක හා සමානයි. ඇමරිකානු ජනාධිපති ජොන් එෆ් කෙනඩි JFK වරක් මෙසේ පැවසුවා. So let us not be blind to our differences. Our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this small planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's future. And we are all mortal. අප අතර වෙනස්කම් වලට අන්ධ නොවෙමු. අප එකිනෙකා සම්බන්ධ කරන පොදු බැඳීම නම් අප සියලු දෙනා මේ කුඩා ගහලෝකයේ වාසීන් වීමයි. අප සියල්ලෝම ආශ්වාස කරන්නේ එකම වායුවයි. අප සියල්ලෝම දරුවන්ගේ අනාගතය පෝෂණය කරනවා. ඒ වගේම අපි හැමෝම කවදා හරි මිය යනවා. මේක අපිට වැදගත් පාඩමක්. මිට අමතරව එකම කාරණාවක් ගැන පමණක් මම ඔබේ අවධානය යොමු කරන්න කැමතියි. ඔබේ ඔබ්ජෙක්ටිව්ස් අතර නොතිබුණු මම යෝජනා කරන ඔබට පමණක් නෙමෙයි සමස්ත විශ්වවිද්‍යාල පද්ධතියටම රාජ්‍යයටම මටම මම විසින් කරගන්නා වූ යෝජනාවක් විදියට අපි එක අන්තයක සිට තවත් අන්තයකට මාරු වීමේදී උපකුලපතිතුමනි තියෙන ලොකුම බාධාවක් තමයි මම වර්ධවා තේරුම් ගන්නට එපා අපේ රටේ අපි අතර තියෙන උපසංස්කෘතික ලක්ෂණයක් බාධාවක් තියෙනවා. මොකක්ද ඒ උපසංස්කෘතික ලක්ෂණය? අපි වෙනස් වෙන්න කැමති නැහැ. වෙනස් වෙන්න කැමති නැහැ. වෙනස් වෙන්නේ හරි හිමින්. ගන්න කාලය වැඩි. එනිසා පුනර්ජනනීය බල ශක්තියට හුවමාරු වෙන මේ වර්තනාත්මක මොහොත මම ඔබෙන් ඉල්ලීමක් කරනවා සමාජයේ සියලු ස්තරයන් දැනුවත් කිරීම සඳහා awareness program එකක් විදියටත් මේකට යම් විශේෂ ශේෂ්ත්‍රයක් ඇතුළත් කරගන්නට කියලා. මේක ලොකු බාධාවක්. සරල භාෂාවෙන් මිනිසුන්ට දැනෙන විදියට තේරෙන විදියට සමස්ත පුරවැසි සමූහයාම බැඳගත්ොත් පමණමයි අපිට මේ ඉලක්කයට යන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ. මම මගේ කතාව අවසන් කරන්නට පෙර ඔබට එක උදාහරණයක් කියන්න කැමතියි වෙනුවෙන්. දැන් අපි පොසිල ඉන්ධන වලින් විදුලි බලය ජනනය කිරීමේදී මහාචාර්යතුමා මට පැහැදිලි කරා යන මිල ගණන් සම්බන්ධයෙන්. ඔබතුමාට පෞද්ගලික යෝජනාවක් කරා. ඒ ගැන මම කියන්නේ. මේ චොරණේ අපි සාමාන්‍ය ගමේ මිනිසාට තේරෙන විදියට මේක පැහැදිලි කරන්න අපි අසමත් වුණා. ඉතිහාසෙත් එහෙමයි. මම මේ උදාහරණ කියන්නේ ඒකයි. දැන් අපි දල වශයෙන් අඩු වැඩි වශයෙන් දවසකට ගිගවොට් hours පැය 45කට වැඩිය ජනනය වෙනවා. මට වඩා ඔබ හොඳින් දන්නවා ඒක. මේන් තුනෙන් එකක් පමණ අඩු වැඩි වශයෙන් ද්‍රව ඉන්ධන, ඔටෝ ඩීසල් and furnace. තවත් තුනෙන් එකක් පමණ කෝල්, ගල් අඟුරු. මේ මොහොතේ අපි 50ක ඉලක්කයකට අපි අපේ ජනන සැලැස්ම සකස් වෙලා තිබුණත් තුනෙන් එකකට පොඩ්ඩක් මදක් වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් තමයි අපි මේන් හයිඩ්‍රෝ ඇතුළු අනිත් පුනර්ජනනීය බල ශක්ති ප්‍රභවයන්ගෙන් උත්පාදනය කරගන්නේ. එතන මෙමගින් අපේ පරිසරයට මුක්ත වන කාබන් ප්‍රමාණය ගැන පැහැදිලි කරන්න යෑමේදී නොතේරුම් ගත්තු සමාජයට මම එක උදාහරණයක් ගත්තා. මම කැමති ඔබත් එක්ක ෂෙයා කරගන්න. කොයිතරම් කාබන් ප්‍රමාණයක් වියුක්ත වෙනවද පරිසරයට? මට අපේ ඉංජිනේරු මහතුරු මෙතනත් ඉන්න අපේ හර්ෂ වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමා, අපේ ජ්‍යෙෂ්ඨතම නිලධාරියෙක් සුනිත්‍ය බල අධිකාරිය, අපේ දල වශයෙන් පොසිල ඉන්ධන සහ ගල් අඟුරු වලින් ජනනය කරන ගිගවොට්ස් අවර්ස් 30කට ආසන්න ශක්තිය වෙනුවෙන් දිනකදී පරිසරයට එකතු කරන CO2 ප්‍රමාණය ඒත් අඩු වැඩි වශයෙන් කිලෝග්‍රෑම් 26000ක් මිලියන 26ක් සමාවෙන්න. මිලියන 26ක් පමණ බවයි අපේ ඉංජිනේරුවන් මට පවසපු දේ. මිලියන 26ක්. දැන් මේ මිලියන 26කම තේරුම් ගත්තේ නැති ඒ කණ්ඩායමට මම කිව්වා, මට හර්ෂමයි කිව්වේ මේක පැහැදිලි කරන්න කියලා. මම කිව්වා මිලියන 26ක්. කිලෝ මිලියන 26ක්. කියන්නේ ටොන් 26000ක්. දිනකට. ටොන් 26000ක් කියන්නේ ඒත් තේරුම් ගන්න බැරි නම් මම කිව්වා වැඩුණු අලියෙක් මහාචාර්යතුමනි. වැඩුණු අලියෙක් ටොන් එකක් විතර බරයි. ඒ කියන්නේ අලි 26000කගේ බර දවසකට පරිසරයට අපි කාබන් එකතු කරනවා. අලි 26000ක බරක්. මේක උහුලන්න පුළුවන්ද? උහුලන්න පුළුවන්ද? මෙන්න මේ සමාජ තීරුව මේක තේරුම් ගන්නවා. තේරුම් ගන්නවා. එනිසායි මම ඔබෙන් ඉල්ලීමක් කරන්නේ, අපි හමුවේ තියෙන මේ පුනර්ජනනීය බලශක්තිය, අපේ සෞභාග්‍යයේ දැක්මේ තියෙන ඉලක්කය හඹාගෙන යන ගමනේ ඒ වචනවල තියෙන මෘදු බව, සැහැල්ලුකම ඉලක්කය හඹාගෙන යෑමේ ක්‍රියාන්විතය ඇතුලේ, ව්‍යාපෘතිය ඇතුලේ එසේම තියෙනවා කියලා අපි විශ්වාස කරන්න අරගයි. අපි කණ්ඩායමක් විදිහට මේ ඉලක්කය හඹාගෙන යන්න ඕනේ. මේ හීනේ අපි දකින්න ඕනේ. සමහරව අපිට hina වේවි. මේ ඉලක්කයට යන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා. හැබැයි අපි මේ හීනේ දකින්න ඕනේ. හීනේ ලුහුබඳින්න ඕනේ. හීන පේන්නේ නැත්තේ නිନ୍ଦ නොයන රෝගෙන් පෙළෙන අයට පමණක් බව අපි කියලා දෙන්නට ඕනේ. අපි හීන දැකලා හීන හඹාගෙන යන්න ඕනේ. ලුහුබඳල එක සාර්ථක කරගන්නට ඕනේ. ඒ සමන් ඔබේ සමාගමය, ඔබේ එකඟත්වය, ඔබේ වැඩපිළිවෙල අගය කරමින් මේ රටේ තිරසාර පැවැත්ම, මානව පැවැත්ම, මනුෂ්‍යත්වයේ නාමයෙන් මේ අද ආරම්භ කළ ව්‍යාපෘතිය සර්ව ප්‍රකාරයෙන්ම සාර්ථක වේවා සහ රාජ්‍යයේ එකඟත්වය සහ මැදිහත් වීම ඔබට නොඅඩුව ලැබේවා. මේ රටේ විද්‍යාර්ථීන්ගේ විශ්වවිද්‍යාල පද්ධතිය තුල ඉන්න වෘත්තීයවේදීන්, වෘත්තිකයන් මේ සියලු දෙනාම අපි එක කණ්ඩායමක් ලෙස මේ අරමුණ හඹාගෙන යන්නට එකට එක් වේවා කියා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරමින් අද දේශපාලඥයෙක් විදියට සතියේ කාර්ය බහුලම දවසේ ඉරිදාවේ උදේ මම එකඟ වූ පරිදි උදයාංග විතරක් නෙවෙයි මගේ දීර්ඝකාලීන මිත්‍ර ආචාර්ය නිහාල් හේවගේ මගේ මිත්‍රයා සහෝදරයා තමයි මට මේ ගැන මුලින්ම ආරාධනා කරේ. උන්ට එකඟ වූ පරිදි 11ට ප්‍රථම මෙතනින් බැහැරවීම සඳහාත් නිහඬවීම සඳහාත් ඔබේ අවසරය ඉල්ලා හිටිනවා. මට ඇහුම්කන් දීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් බොහොමත්ම ස්තුතියි.
Thank you very much, sir. This is an immense opportunity for Sri Lanka to achieve its sustainability goals with the funding by Erasmus+, the EU's grant program to support education, training, youth and sports in Europe.
As the funding partner to the project, the EU plays a critical role here. With that greatest thankfulness, we may have the honor of Mrs. Sewandi Yapa, representative of the Ambassador, European Union, Delegation for Sri Lanka and the Maldives, to present the EU's contribution towards the success of the Sri Lanka project and its completion.
Aibowan, Vanakkam, and good morning. Professor Sujiva Amarasena, Vice Chancellor of the University of Rohana, Dr. Udayanga Galapathy, THREE-Lanka Project Lead of the University of Rohana, distinguished academics and administrative officers and officials of the universities present here and online, distinguished guests and all the people here, good morning to everybody. It's my great pleasure to be here at this occasion, and I would like to thank Dr. Galapathy for inviting me for this event. It was with a very short notice that I decided to participate to this event, because I understand that when I go through the project website, it was a very, very important and vital, and I understand it's very, very significant to the renewable energy of the country and the situation that we have placed today. So it's my great honor to be at this occasion representing the European Union delegation of the Sri Lanka and Maldives. Also, I would like to note at this occasion that EU Erasmus Plus project, as you know, that has helped capacity building in higher education, and we also fund projects in research grants, and also we have Erasmus Mundus, where we support master's degree projects and doctoral degrees. So it is very commendable that University of Ruhuna, where Dr. Galapathy has went forward with this project proposals and has achieved this grant, which is nearly €9 grand. So I hope this project will definitely benefited to the country and also the education sector in the country, because this project has come together with many universities in overseas, and also it has got on board several stakeholders in such as University of Peradeniya and other organizations that work in renewable energy. Also, I want to encourage you, the representatives here in other universities, to take part and reach European Union, because European Union has the capacity to fund you in many areas, not only in education, but we have the capacity to fund in other areas as well, where the Sri Lanka is going to benefit with. In our society, we say that there are no opportunities for us to go ahead, but it's not like that. European Union has that capacity where the union can, of course, fund you, but you have to be very specific with what you are gonna do and how it's gonna develop the country and how it's gonna build the economic capacity of the country. So there are many opportunities. All you have to be is that very specific, can come forward with your ideas, and European Union will definitely consider all the successful projects that is gonna be very, very important for the development of the country. Also, I want to thank for the presence of the minister, because it shows that government is very much interested in the projects that the university is doing. And as Dr. Galapati mentioned, European Union policy is that we go ahead with the government support and collaboration. Although we have the funding capacity, we can't reach the community without the government support. So it is very much critical that the European Union and the government is going in collaboration. I'm not intending to take much time, but in the end, but last but not least, I want to congratulate Dr. Galapati for coming this far, because although European Union is ready to fund the country with many projects, but it's not easy to come for this far without a clear vision and mission and all the background that Dr. Galapati has created with his team. So it is very commendable, and I want to congratulate him to go forward with the success of this project. So I'll be in touch with the European Union. I'm here to connect you all with the delegation, and you can always reach me if you have any inquiries related to your project, or if you have any ideas to go roll out in future. You are warmly welcome to connect with me and reach me. It's a very great pleasure to be here. I wish you all the very best, Dr. Galapati, with your project and all the efforts that you have taken so far. It's really commendable. Thank you very much for inviting me for this gathering as well. I'm very honored to be here today and see this successful project. Thank you very much, and good day for the upcoming activities as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to commence the panel discussion. The project lead, Dr. Udayanka Galapati, will be moderating the session.
Right. Thank you very much for your attention so far. So we will have planned to have panel discussions by considering 4 important topics that will be very much suited and linked to our project. One is that the first discussion point is the opportunity of manufacturing solar panels in Sri Lanka. If we target, we have if we targeted the renewable energy generation by using solar, without having manufacturing facilities within the country, we will be not able to achieve the real target. Yeah, the target will be very costly. So in this context, I expected this discussion, the presence of the minister as well, but he's not there. Let's us discuss, because what I believe is, yes, we should target the skill development. At the same time, local manufacturing sector development should be also targeted. The barriers should be identified. The barriers should be addressed. So to start in the panel discussion, with long-term experience with this sector, with these projects and this area, I will request the idea from Professor Athalage. What are the current barriers for developing this the solar? We have the amorphous silica, we have the clear silica, we have the raw materials. Why we still, as an industry within the country, we are exporting actually? Why it is not used within the country? Is there any reason for there are knowledge gaps for solar energy?
Thank you very much, first, Dr. Galapati, for inviting me to the panel, a bit of a surprise. Anyway, as you said, taking on your point, before entering into the solar PV, for that matter, for any manufacturing, two critical elements are that, okay, where you possess a certain competitive advantage, either in terms of having raw material, know-how, etc., on one side, and the other side is your capability to explore the market for something. So, if you take the case of solar panel, solar PV manufacturing in the local context, as you correctly said, it is well known that Sri Lanka possesses very pure form of 99.99 2-decimal level precision silicon, which during a certain period have been exported without any value addition, right? Having said that, okay, from the other side, the marketing side, we should also have marketing strategy. Suppose this competitive advantage possessing material is brought to a final product, we should also have a marketing strategy. Typically taking our example of the tea, the best product, but we still do not have the marketing arm to get. So that is one ingredient. Now coming back to the reality is that solar photovoltaic silicon-based manufacturing is a very energy extensive and proprietary technology, which is being done only in few countries, Japan, Korea, Europe, North America, and so supplying the whole world. So that doesn't mean that we should stop at that point. One competitive advantage and marketing strategy can be developed. So in my opinion, finding out the proper joint venture kind of thing where the technology can be initially brought here, like what the Indians do in any technology, and have a strategy to make use of our competitive advantage in developing. I think it has already initiated, but this should be taken up in a ground way, as we always do, that we start many things without much national level planning, so it should be commenced. My opinion is that's possible, but even before that, we can very aggressively embark on assembly of solar panels, where our second level capacity can be developed very fast, and then gradually enter into the understanding of this proprietary technology and finding out the correct partner. So, answer to your question is yes, but strategic thinking is needed, and that's where we should stand. Like.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So my the finally what we the final conclusion from your discussion, what I understood, yes, we have the capacity, but to to develop that capacity, we have a proper strategic plan that may be starting from not from the manufacturing solar panel, but starting from even assembly. That then within the time period, within that plan, we can incorporate the manufacturing as well. So that's from the audience. What I would like to ask, do you see any barriers for this? If you go for setting up these, is there any barriers you will think which will affect for the progress?
Good morning to all of you. Well, this is a very good forum and a discussion. I would like to express some of the concerns about, as Dr. Galapati says, one of the key things is that forming the technological infrastructure for this. Because in Sri Lanka, if you think about the material-wise, silicon is freely available, but it needs some processing to finally manufacture the solar cells, because we identified 3 different types of solar cells available: monocrystalline, polycrystalline, and thin film. So the base material for all of these, silicon, and we find the most in high quality silicon in Sri Lanka, but as the intention of this project, that gap exists to develop the infrastructure for manufacturing. So I think main thing is to develop the infrastructure for carrying out this operation that requires public as well as private sector involvement, as well as the policy development. That's what I want to say.
Any other opinion?
Can I just ask some questions? So I'm sure there are experts in this place to answer my questions. I am not an engineer, right? So my question, few questions. If silicon is available in the country, where is it, in what form? Number one. Number two, before going to this solar, I'm sure it's the same principle. Now, hot water units using hot solar power. I'm sure we have had this in country for more than 20 or 30 years, 30, 40 years. Do we produce those in Sri Lanka? 3, what is the investment cost of setting up technological plant or a factory that produces solar panels in this country, and when would that particular unit or investment get the ROI, at least break-even point? Can we get those answers from somebody?
Anything? Any answers for that question? How much may be the investment for solar? So I explore that. So it is depend on how much how much of the capacity of the plant we are going to build. But starting from 50, I had a conversation with one of a German company correspondents. So they stated that the technology transfer cost would be around 15 million to 30 million based on our requirements of 30 million euros. So that may be the investment for the initial stage. So beyond that, I haven't went through how much panels we could. They have given the details. So basically, we could start this technology transfer from 15 million to 30 million euros. Any other comments on this?
Yeah, I think that is the kind of estimation for European or probably Japanese technology. But it's the initial thing. It's something that is not exorbitant. Now here is 1 million euros, so we need 33-Lanka projects to initiate kind of thing too. But of course, we should have. I mean, we don't you do the production or manufacturing just because of the interest or to have a plant. So the value chain, the process chain should be ending up with how a competitive quality product can be, and it can enter into a market where local needs, because investment can multiply subsequently with the technology transfer and our capacity building to get into the process, like what the others do in the region. And then the marketing, it should not end up with like what our investment in the tea industry or in food industry. So it has to be a very strategic, policy-driven framework.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Any thoughts on implementation of private-public partnership? What sort of opportunity could be created through private-public partnership for this type of projects?
Dr. Galapathy, probably before coming to that, I have again a question. Probably this is also something deal with the PPP. So this is, I think, as Vice Chancellor mentioned, that this solar panels, we have seen this, I think, 20, 30 years back, people are putting in there. But one of the biggest problems was that what I learned, there was no aftercare mechanism. Once it failed forever. So probably that would have been taken into seriously at that time. Now, my question is for this particular project, what are the opportunities? So how do you explore the innovations for the small scale solar systems? Now, I'm particularly interested in mushroom farming, where people cannot grow temperate mushrooms in Sri Lankan conditions because of the tropical climate. So that if we can have a portable unit, I just Googled it and I have seen many things develop in other part of the world. So if we can have a portable unit, for example, this particular agriculture system, where you can come up with new innovations, and is there any provision in your project to get these into the business?
In our project, actually, we don't have. That means what we could do is we have this opportunity that we can the level of development of these courses will enhance the knowledge of using these technologies. So, for example, if they wanted to install the solar PV, usually we don't have that knowledge now. So, if the project will deliver that know-how, so not in the capacity of this instrument, but on the know-how we will transfer. So that can be used.
I understand. So in other words, I mean, maybe there are a lot of experts. For the mass scale solar panels, I think absolutely no big issue because there are people, they can afford and things. But how about the possibility for the small scale units in future Sri Lanka?
Yeah, that means if we consider if you are using the solar in Sri Lanka, solar panels, we should target the small scale. When we targeted the small scale usage, there are a number of, when the scale is high, that means small scale people are using, but number of users are high. When the number of users are high, there is a requirement for more installation, more management, more maintenance. So that is catered by this project. The know-how, what we are developing, what we are transferring. So I mean, for when that development is there, I think easily your problem will be addressed. What they have to do is we are transferring knowledge for how to select the solar panel, how cost effective, those things. When the people know this, they know what to purchase, how to assemble, how much the cost. So that is the know-how we need to transfer. Currently that is not available with the general public. So that is, first, if we do that, then people will get used to use the technology. Then when our people get used to the technology, starting to use the technology, then more innovation will develop. Because they will try to find new ways of using the technology. Until they started to use the technology, they don't have awareness. So that's the critical part of this project.
Let me extend, Dr. Galapat. Let me answer to Professor Vasanta's question. Actually, if you're talking about monetary values, for a house that have supply the energy for a month, it takes about 700,000. That is the cost that we are paying for the suppliers, solar panels. I mean, those who are installing. But if you really take the material cost itself, about 250,000. So installation and other provision, everything, put in that much on that. Another thing is, if you take out technology-wise, most of the solar panels actually, of course, they made for 20 years, 30 years, but because of our climate, now they are guaranteed only for 10 years because of high temperature, and there are so many issues. Even some of the electrical parts, so many issues. Because we have only limited people to maintain the things. So that is why this it's just stagnated in different places. So if we, through this program, when we are developing when we are training many technicians, many managers, so it's all around, spread faster in the country. So then we hope every home in the village areas all get benefited of these. So there will be many clusters, many small and medium enterprises who are serving and supporting this industry. I hope it will be a success.
And Dr. Jayakrama, yes, I'm Dr. Chaminda from Engineering Faculty, Ruhuna. I just wish to add few more things. In a broader view, I think this project goes in like bottom to top approach. You want to build local awareness, but I would see, to give a broader answer for this issue, how to get this solar industry in Sri Lanka, I think we should have top to bottom approach as well. For instance, I just did a quick calculation. If it is 16,000 megawatt solar we are after, it is like 160 million panels we're going to have by 2050. So as a government, as a country, we should have a plan. If we're going to have 160 million solar panels installed, so what is, how many factories, how many partners? And like if we can give you some policy, like concession for locally assembled panels this much compared to totally imported one. Like what happened to mini hydros back 10-15 years ago, there was a huge concession from the CB to tap mini hydro. So many industries boomed. I think we should think like these values, what the studies really to make them outcomes, like it should be tangible, like 160 million solar panels is a big business. And it should come with renewable energy ministries and other financial ministries, all together with investors, universities, I think big role to play. Thanks.
Yes, Karu, thank you. That's why if we go on to that sort of, if we go for the national targets, like you correctly, if we go for the national target, if we try to import this 16 million, right? Then it more than gain, it a lost. So that's why we need to start producing here within our raw material. If we have the national target, that national target should be backed by a proper plan. That's why we expected that these discussions should forward. Now I prefer that we are discussing, but we will not forward that. So ultimately, but my view is we need to forward. This is the outcome of the discussion. I expected two ministers to hear, because they will then understand the certain things what we want to express. But we will definitely send our communications, and that should be the plan. If we have the national target 70%, we will target for the solar the certain amount of money. We should know how much of solar panels we need, whether how much cost will be there for if we import. But if we set up the factories here, how much we can produce, and how much raw material available within the country, how could we use that? So that sort of a proper plan is required for developing, for enhancing, for going the sector as well as to achieve the government targets. That may be our conclusion.
I have a question actually, not about the standalone systems, solar power standalone systems, but what you connected to the public grid, national grid. So how supportive, my question is how supportive the electricity board in purchasing the generation? No, I know from our point of view, we couldn't sell more than what we purchase. So that kind of things, that kind of restrictions are there. So how supportive is the LECO and electricity board in implementing this renewable energy power generation, power purchasing? I don't.
Mr. Harsha, any comments on this?
I would say the government is very supportive of the buyback schemes. It was there from 2010 as the net metering concept where buyback was not proposed, but in 2016 the scheme was developed to purchase excess electricity at 22 rupees for the first 7 years and 15 rupees and 50 cents for the balance 13 years, and as a result we have 337 megawatts of capacity on our roofs and providing 3% of the national energy. So by any standard, any global standard, it's a major achievement for our country. So I would say it's very supportive, but there are regional differences. There are some difficult characters in the network who will oppose, thinking that the revenue loss to the utilities is going to affect the utilities very badly. There is a truth in that, but overall, I would say both utilities are very supportive of our program. Thank you.
Can I? Yeah, I'm Prasanna Gunawardana from University of Peradeniya. Just to add you something, the before question regarding manufacturing solar panels here. I just searched the web and found that there are companies who are offering factories or the solutions to different places. They advertise it so that their capacities are varying, so that probably you have inquired the same, right? So now it is a kind of a simple thing, simple calculation, because if we have a clear target to achieve within a certain period of time, and we'll have to do a kind of a market analysis and a smaller research, because we know the numbers, and if we know the government policy and etc., and if we know the material availability and all that, and energy cost, everything, so we can have a nice simple study, maybe undergraduate study or something, very quickly to find out the feasibility of it. So if that proposal is a feasible one, probably the government or any other private sector can invest it. So most probably a desk research could be done to find out the feasibility. Since all the offers are there available, because you don't have to start from the beginning. So it is 100% technology transferring from another country to us and implementing here. Maybe some other countries also may be offering the same kind of things. So it seems to me that that is a feasible thing, because otherwise people are not advertising such things. So that is kind of thing where we can think about.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So we will move into the next topic.
Yes,
Okay.
One quick point. True enough. I think if we are looking from a perspective of a German technology transfer kind of thing, we should not limit ourselves only to the local market. Well, it's a small country. It has to be seen from a business perspective. if we have a good quality product, I believe that our market should be international, competing with the products coming from, let's say, not to name a country, but I have to, like a Chinese product. Well, that's where the competitive advantage is. Competitive advantage of our material, good technology, should not get limited ourselves only to our local, well, we don't produce cars to satisfy only our population. We have to produce cars. Well, Japanese population, how much? They produce cars to the whole world. I mean, we should have that kind of high esteem when you have a competitive advantage. So we should not underestimate. And also in terms of maintenance, the solar panel is about 20 years without much problem. The maintenance is mainly with the electronics involved. So we should also think how innovatively solutions can be brought in. Typical example is LED lamp. LED chip is produced somewhere, but there are so many innovative industries with the different designs and so on. It is a typical example for us to take up. Chip is somewhere, and the innovation comes from the rest of the 95% of the product. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Exactly, I agree with you, because solar panels, it will be 20 years, but inverters and so on maybe 10 years. So that's the area we can consider. Okay, thank you very much for your active participation. So next thing we wanted to discuss, how to improve the research and development culture in Sri Lankan universities. Now, this is, I think, in many forums, this has been discussed. But we are lacking in producing innovations, end innovations, like patentable products. If we consider my department, every year there is around 30 products we are manufacturing. We are manufacturing prototypes, around 30 prototypes. So, but when we go for the practical, real usage within the country, whether those technologies has used, but very limited developments are there. All those developments which has currently using within the industry is when the industry has involved. Not ideal we have done that. It continuously going through this path, right? So if we consider the technology readiness levels, we are stopping around technology validation at the lab level. Recently, we have developed a ventilator, but for COVID thing, but we were currently limited within the technology validation at the lab level. So we wanted to go for that. There are some barriers. So one thing is, what I believe is, for example, if we compare the countries like UK, what they have using the thing is, they have technology readiness level development plan. One technology is developed within the university setup, they will be transferred to the next, the national level centers for further development and to send into the market. So that sort of technology readiness level plans are there. Within the product developments, target in the product development. So it is not with us, we cannot invest more and on centers with a very small country. So what we wanted to see is, we wanted to find a way that all the technology readiness, this step should be followed within the universities. So I wanted to know from you, from our Vice Chancellor, so what do you think, what are the barriers currently to improve this culture?
Well, I believe this how to improve research and development culture in Sri Lanka in general is a problem. But I think we are probably more focusing on this area of development, maybe perhaps renewable energy area and so on. But I suppose we need to do basic identification of basic problems first. For example, I don't think if you look at this, now we probably have maybe good several thousand house-tuning units which have built-in solar panels on their roofs. Do they have an advantage of doing that? what is the economic advantage they have obtained, what is the ROI on that. So can we then take that data and promote it to housing units of the rest of the country? Look, do this because, you know, these people have obtained this much advantage by doing this. If there is no such advantage, go and look at the unit. Say, okay, they are only producing 400 units a month or something like that. That's not good enough. And that's because of the quality of the solar unit, right? So it's Indian origin, maybe something like that, or Chinese origin, not Israel origin, not German origin, kind of whole heap of things. I don't think we have kind of data that is describing basic problems in the country. We probably have energy utilization data, and that's where the current problem for the CAB is in this entire production. To me, you know, some backgrounds of the costing and all that. So that is one side. Secondly, of course, a lot of our actual problem is high-end technology, high cost, high-end technology research. Probably we are not doing in the country, but only few centers can do that. So I believe one of the things, as you suggested, okay, let's develop some high-end research institutes in the country, maybe affiliated university, maybe 5 or 6, maybe one in each university, focusing on one particular area or 2 particular areas, not much. You don't give everything to everybody. You do this, you do that, you do the other thing. So that's one side from the approach of the government. I think even as a university, we probably can identify areas that we can actually dominate above all the other areas. For example, I think certainly fisheries sector, marine sector, you mentioned marine, that area, I don't think any other university in this country has a competitive advantage of us. We have a huge competitive advantage because we are next to the sea, we have access, we already have a marine engineering department developing, fisheries faculty already in place. So we are not using this, and also not using it for benefit to the communities. There's a huge gap between what we do and what we actually apply. Right? And I think it's appreciated by one project by medical faculty, where even I was involved, is about newborn screening, where we screen 180,000 babies born every year in this country, half of the population born for thyroxine deficiency or hypothyroidism congenital, with a small heel prick blood test. Test cost is less than 500 rupees, and we detect annually about 200 children with no thyroid gland at birth, and start give them thyroxine. We prevent mental retardation. That's application. That's probably the only project I can see from the entire university that really has worked for the community. That is not there. So it will not, if it is not there, the development will not take place. Because now that lab need to go to the next stage where you can probably screen for other diseases at birth other than just that, thyroxine deficiency. So that's, to me, money probably is the easiest thing to find. And you can blame a vice chancellor for not giving money. Right? And the ministry. But not doing things, you can't blame the vice chancellor. Right? So that is where the problem is. People shouldn't be doing research for promotions alone. There must be a benefit to the mankind, community. Community is mankind to me. That's where the problem is. And I think attitudes of all the academics should change on that.
Yeah, thank you very much for your thoughts. I think Dr. Indika has very good experience and difficulties she has faced when I think she tried to do some innovation. So.
Yeah, actually, something my experience. Now we are located in Galle, our faculty. So when we try to do research, we have found so many difficulties in testing some machineries, something we need to do more sophisticated things. So that every time we need to go to Colombo, or we need to give the samples to Colombo and do things like that. But we know other universities have those facilities. So my experience, rather than, because some like the companies like the Syntech, organizations like Syntech, they don't allow us to go there and do our test by ourselves. they just test and give the results, but with a very high cost. But if we can develop kind of research groups within universities, so that we can share the facilities that are available in different universities, that would be much better. Otherwise, we just isolatedly doing something in the Ruhuna, and we just have lacking funds, and we are just complaining those things. But if we can develop a kind of a collaborative work with other universities within this kind of project, if we can develop such things, that would be good, I think.
Yes, madam. I think that is very important. I think for a country like us, resource sharing. Now, it is resource sharing, sir, if we consider the certain testing, certain machines, the amount of testing we are doing, amount of expertise testing we are doing within all the universities, state sector universities, that could be done by one machine, certain things. So if we allow the resource share, that will allow, reduce most of the resource related issues. That is one. Then another thing, what is your idea about the research funding and current restrictions? As a researcher, when you're doing the, using the research funding, you will get the research fund. But when you try to use it, you may have to go a number of, you have to address number of concerns, and most of the times we will not get what we really expect to buy sometimes, right? So what is your idea about this existing procedures, about this taking the research funding, and when we using what are the difficulties you are? I think it is one of the issue to develop a proper research culture. What is your ideas about that?
Dr. Udanga, can I comment on the previous one first?
Yeah, sure.
Actually, now we mainly talk about, there are two things. One thing is the research, and the other one is the product development as engineering discipline. So then the second one, basically, as you said, we are doing a lot of projects, undergraduate projects, maybe 2-semester project or 1-semester project. So the students are coming in and they are doing 1-year project and they are leaving. So what happens usually, the projects are not carrying forward, because to develop a product, a marketable product, it takes several rounds of doing the same thing and improving gradually. It takes sometimes many years. So one thing lacking is the carrying forwarding it to next generation and all that, because again new student is coming and he takes some time to learn that one, and then very slow progress is happening. So therefore, because our experience also the same, so therefore Peradeniya engineering faculty decided to have a incubation center. So very recently we established and now it is functioning. So we thought of getting few students, because of about maybe more than 400 projects are running at a time, and so we select 3-4 projects among them into the incubation center, and funding through university funding as well as some other fundings to make it for a marketable product for another few years, maybe 2 years or 3 years. So maybe if you have 100 projects, only one will succeed. So that is the normal thing. Maybe one is enough. So therefore, actually, we'll have to target from undergraduate projects. We are all the time complaining that they are not coming up with marketable product or whatever it is. Actually, within shorter period, nobody can't do that. There are things. So actually, the way out is to have such a mechanism.
Yeah, even for the undergraduate project, it is very less opportunity for the continuation. If we properly continue by year, that maybe end up with a good product, no? So to to add another comments, I will kindly ask from our Dean Faculty of Engineering, what is your thought about research and development culture in Sri Lanka, sir?
Well, of course, we have to have people, we should not be fear about failing. That is the most important thing. Alva Edison, I don't know, 1,000 times failed before he invented the bulb. Nowadays you can say Elon Musk. When that rocket blast, if we abandon, right, then there wouldn't be any success story, right? Vertical landing and all of that. That success story will not be there if we abandon the project after the first blast. So we have to believe in ourselves, as the professor from Peradeniya University said. So we have to continuously invest this, and the administration has to understand that research, there are successes as well as failures, and continue to fund the initiatives, so that ultimately we can get output from some of the projects. Of course, not all of the projects will succeed, but some of the projects. That kind of initiative, that kind of whether our administration system is ready to accept 1,000 failures, right? So whether that our administration system is ready to accept this 1,000 failures and continue to fund is a big question. So we need a leadership. That is the main problem in this country going forward in the next phase of development, I would say, right? Because we have now a middle income country, so we have to propagate or propel to the next income generation. So there need to be technological advances. So whether we have the right kind of leadership to believe in it and invest on it, so that we can propagate, advance the technology sector in the country. So we have to understand that, and we have to take an initiative on this. We have to create leaders who are technically competent in this field. Say what is happening in the cricket, Sri Lankan cricket. So people has to be there who have played the game, right? They understand the current issues better than anybody else. So if you want to it is applicable to any other field. So the people who specialize in this field of specialization has to take up this front sheet. So if you want to country to go forward, so that is my view on that. Right? Technology is no different.
Another small comment. I'm Dr. Chamindage. I'll start just highlight 4 points. We start with Oxford AstraZeneca. Within finite time, Oxford research went to a multi-million fund generation research for. So, but I think it's very different level. I think we have long journey to go up to that level. But at least to be on specific on your theme, how to improve our universities to develop their culture, I think lecturers have a big role to play, and we are good at teaching and our fundamental research. But to make us more product-oriented, let's say solution generators, I think at least in our CCPDHE level, we should be trained how to make our research to a product. I think it's a big gap to be filled. Second, our UBA, our university business entities, I think to my understanding, considering many other universities also, they are in push mode. We as lecturers, we should push them. I got an innovation, what you can do. I got a patent draft, what you can do. But they should be in the pull mode. They should ask from us, like, and they should market us. I remember one example from Queensland University of Technology when I was doing PhD. There was a whole lot of sessions, and they pay us, they give a lot of experiences. That is the level the way they do. So as our universities, our business units should play more active role than a passive role. And thirdly, I think we should learn, like there should be enough some example we should share. Like for example, in University of Colombo, the BioClean example, I think it boomed a lot of innovators in Colombo. And I think at least business entities in universities should find few examples and try to market and create a culture. So that is my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, there, as our dean mentioned, yes, there is some sort of a system change, and the leadership is required. I mean, there should be a policy change. We should accept the failures of research. So, and the scope of the research, especially research funding schemes, what I observe within Sri Lanka, we are not defined the scope. When at the starting point of the project or goals, it is required to define the right scope. And assessment should be done based on the scope. That is one thing with regard to funding. Other thing is we should have more flexibility. I mean, that is the requirement. The regulation should be allow to have some flexibility to the researcher to work on this. Sometimes when we try to buy certain items over the internet, there are certain examples, right? eBay, it is very less cost, but if you order from a supplier, right, they will buy from eBay and sell to us. So we aware the technologies, but we have a lot of barriers to we know what to buy. More than the supplier, we know what is the part and their quality. Everything we are aware. We are the researchers, but we need try to use the existing system. It will not allow. So that sort of things has to be changed. So and the next one also discussion point also more similar to that, but I will allow Dr. Nandita to speak his thoughts on this.
Yeah, I just want to highlight something. We have this word, the funding. So the funding, how much? It was not highlighted here. For example, for undergraduate projects, it is about 25,000 rupees per student. So if you compare this with per student annual expenditure, it's like, as I remember, it's like 275,000 per student. So it is in that number. So if we fail to identify the scale, so if we simply say no funding or other reasons for not funding, so that's not going to work. So without funding, it's not going to work. And look at the numbers. It's about 25,000, 30,000 rupees per student. So this has to be considered. Otherwise, this big word funding will might be frightening. Right? We are not talking about 100,000 rupees. This is for 4 years. 25,000 for 4 years a student. So please have an idea about the scale we are talking about. Otherwise, we can do all sorts of analysis projects, desktop projects, all sorts of research only in the desktop. So we had very hard time about 10 years ago. There was zero funding. So we had very hard time with undergraduate projects. That is the main item we had for research as academics, as students. So please understand the scale of it. Thank you.
Dr. Indika.
something to add to what Dr. Prasanna Gunawardena said. Ruhuna also, we do the continuation projects because we also believe that a project cannot be ended within 1 year, so that to get its success, we also think that it should be continued. And we have such kind of projects, continued projects for 3 to 5 years. And I have one experience with one success project. We would be able to draft a patent, but it took 2 years to get their comment, at least saying that these things has to be updated. It got 2 years. So by the time that we get that comment, the student has gone somewhere, maybe he's not in the country, and we may have lost the interest also. So we have to expedite that process as well. And also there are some barriers. We don't know, initially we don't know how to write it and what is the things that we have to refer, so how the searching things. So there are so many things. Maybe through the project, if you can organize or maybe kind of workshops, it would be a benefit to those for the success projects.
Anything?
Little comment, Udang, I think. Research is not all about technology and money. I mean, if you, I'll just give you an example. Newborn babies with jaundice, the yellow discoloration. A nurse found in a blood sample taken from a baby with jaundice, which was left near a window, was less yellow after some hours of exposure to sunlight through the window. And that observation was conveyed to teams, and then people started thinking about working on that and taking samples out and leaving it on sunlight. The yellow color disappeared, then babies are exposed to light and suddenly found that jaundice disappears with exposure to light because the bilirubin got destroyed with sunlight. Simple observation that lead to massive amount of research today based on what, in the sunlight, different colors, different wavelengths, which blue light or green light that is better or white light that is better. A whole heap of research was followed on that particular basic principle. So it's not all about money at the beginning or not about technology at the beginning. It's about observing and finding problems in the system and trying to answer solutions in the system through research. Try and find that out. That is number one. Number two is about policy making. There is no way in any part of the world that you could be given money without being accountable. That's not possible. You got to spend money in the proper way and follow proper procurement procedures. And it is also not possible for a country. Of course, I do believe that some research needs more money, other research needs less money. But when you are looking at from the political side or political point of view, there has to be some equity in distributions. So those are different issues, political and policy issues, which needs to be addressed. And high-end research at higher cost. You're not talking about high-end research all the time. And of course, losing interest is a problem for everybody. People must have the determination to pursue a goal. If you want to do any research in a particular area and resolve a problem in the country. So those are all features that all scientists should possess. So think about those things.
Say anything.
Okay. So we are talking about how to improve research and development culture in Sri Lanka. So some few ideas. So in my opinion, we should give our undergraduates more opportunity to think from the very beginning of their career. So currently we are restricting their research studies to one particular year or one particular semester or something like that. So in my opinion, so students have very good ideas. There are researchers, very good researchers actually, the born researchers there. So if we incubate them from the very beginning, so at the end they will come up as very good researchers. So we should have a policy of discovering discoverers. From the we should give more space in our curriculum to students just to play around some small projects, very small projects. So this is a small idea. And for the previous one, I have a question from you actually, Dr. Kalapati. In 2016, the government launched a community-based solar power generation project, the Surya Balasangrama or something. Do you know what the current status of this project, or is there any link of this project to that?
It was actually government funding scheme, no? They have initiated, I think more than myself, Mr. Harsha is aware about Surya Balasangrama, you know? Those days you were... It is the government loan scheme was produced for the law. Now I think it has improved 9% to 4.5.
Yes, when we began, there was about 7 megawatts of capacity at the beginning. The scheme was launched in 2010 as the net metering, where excess exports were not purchased by the utility. But 2016, Surya Balasangrama essentially was a change of that scheme to have electricity sales possible. But within the available legal framework, it was a very difficult task. So government took a bold decision and allowed the purchases to be made from individual customers. As a result, now we have about 33,000 households and businesses engaged in solar power generation. It has become so lucrative because of the falling prices of solar equipment. In fact, one of the owners downtown told me it is far more profitable for him to sell solar electricity than make tea. So he has closed down his tea factory and just idling there, making money out of the solar business. So there is another side to this story, because larger the project capacity, the more money you make, because the scale benefits. So that way it served our purpose, and to a great extent the ADB, Asian Development Bank, gave us $50 million to finance low cost financing for the sector, 4% borrowing rates. As a result, a large number of people are participating. But we have already hit the ceiling, so to say, with regard to the capacity, hosting capacity of the networks in some of the areas like Navala and Colombo 7 posh areas where a lot of affluent people live. Already the capacities are limited, reached, and not only in posh Colombo 7, but even in places like North and East, there is a big business by the householders to have the entire capacity to one. It is not, they are making it as a business opportunity. So 20 kilowatt per home, they are saturating the network far more quickly than we ever thought. So that is the present status. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harsha. But with regarding to that question for the earlier comment of yours, sir, I also believe the same. Now, for example, I am about more engineering education. We are producing a model of engineer. So if we need to start to model them from their first year onwards, first year or second year onwards, and they are coming to this field since they have interested about the technology, but they have the capacity, analytical capacity. At the first stage onwards, we should create this research culture. That means the way how to conduct a research, how to develop the product. So that sort of a culture should be established, and we should support for that particular model, that particular undergraduate to develop as a person with the capacity. That is why, in my personal opinion, we are investing him. We are investing him for free education, but at the same time, we should consider its main characteristic development. That means for an engineer, I feel that he should pass out by at least very small product he should produce. He should manufacture himself. We should provide required facilities for that, the material for that. That should be the way. The whatever we invest, otherwise we just teaching is not enough. So that is the reason when they go to the industry, we are getting certain feedback. Some are failed because they haven't that, they don't have a hand-on experience. When the person has the hand-on experience and involved in the product development, they know how to select even although we teach the product development, how to select a nut, how to select the bolt, how to buy the build of certain materials for certain product. So that experience should also be given to the undergraduates. So that's very critical. So that's why we are making a model. That's what I believe. That model should have the person should have that capacity that with the engineer, if it is engineer, research and development capacity should be established. So that is my also view. So yes, there are positive and negative. We should give the flexibility, whether people use the funding, when they give the flexibility in proper way, whether it is countable, uncountable. There are things, but those things can be addressed if we find a way how to address barriers for local innovation and product development. Now, I will say one of my thought on this, that there are a lot of there should be a way to we have concerns, but we have to understand the best practices. Best practices can be understood by having the best exposure. So if we can organize in the UGC wise or something annual conference with Sri Lankan scholars around the world, they will say us what is their practices, what is that we can lesson learn. But currently, there are a number of scholars, they are working on other universities around the world, and also in one of the best universities. They will tell us how they give in the research funding, what sort of flexibility is there, what sort of infrastructure is there, and their know-how can also be transferred. So to start this discussion, I will invite Dr. Sanjeeva Vitarna, sir. Sir, can you point out some thoughts on this, what sort of benefits we will get that if we organize an annual conference with the scholars around the world, Sri Lankan scholars, for addressing our concerns.
Thanks, but I didn't expect this question from you, Dr. Galapathy, but thanks anyway, I'll try to answer. Firstly, there are so many conferences happening right now around the country. At least half a dozen engineering conferences every year. When we started the first engineering international conference in Sri Lanka, sponsored by IEEE, that was 2005. We were the first, and then Peradeniya started in 2007 following us. At that time, our expectation was to expose the local research and researchers. When I say local, I don't mean it's the local product development, etc. Not only that, but our talent and the research happening in Sri Lanka. This was back in 2005, 16 years ago. That was a big challenge. Because I remember when we passed out from the University of Moratuwa at that time in mid-90s, myself and Dr. Hettiarach, etc., we didn't know what was an abstract even, how to write an abstract, write research papers. It was not there. So after passing out and going to the world, doing postgraduate studies, we thought this should come to Sri Lanka, right? We were already lagging behind even India, Bangladesh, Pakistan. They were flying ahead of us. So our objective of starting an international conference hosted in Sri Lanka was to give this exposure to our researchers and our students, exposure and networking. But when we look back now, coming to your question, Dr. Galapathy, now, when we look back, what is the status of conferences held in Sri Lanka nowadays? I can refer to engineering conferences. Is there a useful purpose, or is it just to score marks for promotions? I have to say this, right? Publishing, anything and score marks for promotions. This is a big question. and I see the quality is deteriorating. Even the conference certifying body in particular, I was past chair, so I can speak on this. Have they even reduced the quality benchmark? These things are big questions. So hosting conferences is easy. It's an easy task now. If you have money, you can do it easily. Book a hotel, go online, put up CFP, send messages, social media, etc., and email. It's very easy nowadays, actually. You don't need much of legwork if you have money. If you don't have money, still NSF, etc., and sometimes alumni associations, they help you. But the quality of conferences, where are they now? This is a big question we have to answer. Now, conferences are now like mostly held in Sri Lanka, engineering conferences that I know. They are coming down to a level that which I would keep in par with those so-called predatory journals. Now you can publish for 5,000 Indian rupees.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's about quality, Dr. Galapatti. It's about quality. If you can uphold quality, so that we can showcase our students, research students, and the staff at an international level. That is where we should focus on. That is where I should pitch, not holding conferences just for the sake of boosting our image or university image. I know you are not doing that. This is why you are asking the question, right? But or to just publish something, some fictitious data and concepts that'll move us more towards the knowledge and engineering bankruptcy. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir, into certain extent, yes.
Yeah.
So going from that your comments, what I am suggesting is, it is very, the conference, if we organize for certain themes like producing the papers with the scholars, that is not my view. What I believe is to address the particular needs, lesson learned. For example, if it is the renewable energy sector, we have an issue, we have a technology gaps with producing the solar panels. There are experts in our local experts around the world, they are working in this area. To address that, we can make one group which have a conference which will integrate with the industry as well. So that will give the productive outcome. Just not that combination should be for the development, not for just publishing something. That if we consider the other things, how they are practicing. Now here we have concern about why our product development are not fulfilled and going through the cycle. We can learn from them what they are practicing, what their strategies. For example, in my understanding, my knowledge, University of Nottingham, they are expecting one paper, journal paper from a professor per year. But that paper has to be certain given standard limits. That's all. So that means they are going for high-end research, high-end outcome. This is not that now our system promote to count the marks by publishing more and more, and finally we will end up with publishing things which are not value. We don't have a value. But that is the difference, that we have a market scheme for certain things. That market scheme and the evaluation within the systems of the United Kingdom, they are different. They are evaluating the value of the paper, and for that they are giving the marks. Not for if you put the paper for one thing, no. It should be it have a value. So that sort of a culture we can learn. That's what I'm saying. When we integrate them, when we incorporate them to our society. I mean, now if they are, they are around the world. But within one day, if we have the useful discussion with them, we can learn.
Absolutely. So I can let me pick from that and go 1 minute further. Yes, true. If few idea is to go with the industry and like knowledge exchange and publishing. This is the perfect formula, I think, for now.
Yeah, for us, that is maybe the good platform.
Correct. This is where all engineering conferences should now go to. That should be the side, the fictitious hypothetical papers. That's enough now for this country. We have done thousands and volumes of volumes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just one question. How can you guarantee? Is there research evidence for you to say that if you do it, this will work? What you suggested? Well, I found I have a very simple question. I just worked out while being on this table what you said about Surya Bala Sangramil. So somebody said $50 million was spent on this. That's what I heard. I don't know whether I'm right. And then utilization went from 7,000 to 34,000. Okay? So my first question I got in my mind, okay, why didn't somebody spend, what policy making person, spend 30 million rupees to set up a solar panel manufacturing factory in Sri Lanka with that money? That was my first question. That occurred to my mind. That's policy issue. Same amount of money, we have spent that. Number two, I just calculated, we have spent 300,000 rupees roughly to educate and change 27,000 per family, 27,000 households to utilize solar power. On your proposal, I believe you didn't spend money on giving people solar units with that money, but more on awareness program and policy and all that. So if you had spent $50 million on that, so that's about 300,000 rupees per change. Is that worthwhile?
15 million for setting up the solar panel development, that is the lowest cost. That's
No, I was told not. Did you say 50 or 15? 50. So I was told in the previous discussion 30 million for US dollars for setting up a factory. So why didn't the policymakers at that time, now I'm not a policymaker on this area, spend $30 million on setting up a factory to manufacture plants, the solar panel units? If you knew, that was the cost at that time. That's number one. Number two, is it worthwhile spending 50 million rupees to change 27,000 families? 300,000 rupees per family. So my question now, if you do this same change, invest money, where is the guarantee that it will happen?
Yeah.
Is that research based, that opinion?
Dr. Deyanga?
Yeah.
Can I give a...
Yeah.
I think Vice Chancellor, something, but not probably giving a direct answer. Something lacking in our research culture in this country is that, which other countries so-called developed in technology, practicing is that anything that is not monitored cannot be improved. That's the thing. We don't have a mechanism of research impact management, which is a closed cycle. We stop at the research output, as Sanjeev said, making publications, etc. It has to go towards outcome. That has to be evaluated. That's where the impact is taking place. Whether we are changing the society, whether we should have invested for solar or on the manufacturing plant, or things, the policymakers will get a feedback only based on that. That element is missing.
Yeah.
Nowhere it is being done. So we have for research just an open-ended process. We select research based on our interest, because of publication, promotion, etc. That doesn't come back. At some point, this feedback should commence, which is practiced as research impact management. So it's a management technique. Research management is missing. We always come with complaints saying that, well, no money is being funded, process is difficult, as Vice Chancellor said, well, there should be accountability. So we have to be able, so this is an element that should come into, which will answer most of the questions.
Yes, sir. Every 5 years at least we should conduct that research impact assessment. It's in the practice. That's why I'm telling that we can learn the lesson from currently there are most of the European countries. They are practicing every 5 years. In UK it's called ref to every 5 years they are practicing. So such a practice is needed, and based on that the evaluation will come. Not for number of publications. That sort of a strategy should adapt to the country. So that's the very good point, sir. And so I will go to the last part of the discussion. That is why Sri Lankan university system is unable to produce entrepreneurs. So that is another thing we need to address, we need to consider. So to start the discussion, can I invite Dr. Nihal Hevage to have some thoughts on it?
Thank you, Dr. Galapathy. Actually, the entrepreneurs is the big problem. Until this government comes, we were producing entrepreneurs, but there has no way to give the support in the banking sector or whatever sector to develop their career and their future. But this time, I think there has the good discussion in our budget. Also, it has a support given by the government and the very low interest rate and some sort of mechanism also introducing to develop the entrepreneurs and to develop their career. I think it is very important. Research also very important, as well as to support of the government and the banking sector, also very important to develop the entrepreneur's career and their future.
Okay, thank you. One is yes, funding. So there are now mechanisms to address. Startup grants are available, but rather than these, and why we are lacking that culture. What's my main concern? Another main concern. Why we are lacking the cultures. When they go out from the university, people are expecting job from government job. That's why there are a lot of unemployment and graduates. Every year they are expecting a job from the government. So we are not producing. That means that they don't want to go for their own business. They are not producing that culture. I had 3 weeks visit to China. So what they are doing is in their programs they have incorporated entrepreneurship as a module. Every program, that's a government policy. And so in that regard, with that experience, that's why we have in our faculty we have started the Marvel to Innovation and Entrepreneurship Club for the university, our university students. So what do you think about that? How could we improve the entrepreneurship culture? I mean, motivation to entrepreneurs within the undergraduates. Yes, madam.
Is it on? Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Galapathy, for inviting me this your kick-off meeting here. I am Champana Varatna from Faculty of Agriculture, University of Ruhuna. Actually, when you talk about this entrepreneurship culture, we have new Erasmus Plus project starting from with you, actually with your project, SriLanka. The name is Strengthening University Enterprise Collaboration in Asia, SECRA. So, University of Ruhuna is a partner of that project. So there we are trying to develop entrepreneurship culture, having linkage with universities and enterprises or industries. And under that, again, what professor from University of Peradeniya mentioned, we are trying to have incubation facilities also there to train our entrepreneurs there. Okay, it is it will start 2021 and it will end by 2024, like your project here. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, madam. Thank you for sharing about this project. Actually, it is very important. I think that sort of a project will allow us to share certain experience with other partners as well. So that we will collaboratively able to develop our culture. That's what we also believe that we can lesson learn, and I feel that it should be at least one credit module. Every program should include the entrepreneurship module. That means that teach the entrepreneurship and share the experience of entrepreneurs within the module. Do some case studies. Then people know. Otherwise, student will until student pass out, they don't know. They don't have very less people has that idea and also motivation. The motivation can be incorporated if we introduce such a module, but it's not the taught base. It is more practical base. There are number of factors, fear on failure. So, like Dr. Harsh stated, that we should eliminate within our culture, and impact of network availability on the entrepreneurship integration for undergraduate in Sri Lanka. What sort of idea about this factor you think?
Can I give some comments?
Please.
I am Adputaraja, Dean Engineering from University of Jaffna. Thank you for this great opportunity. Actually, this incubation center we established with the help of Ministry of Science and Technology and Sri Lanka Inventors Commission about 2 years ago. That was earlier the plan was 5 incubation centers, 5 national incubation centers in the country by the Ministry of Science and Technology. But however, I think that was dropped at some point, but somehow now the many places which was already established and now establishing some places. But what I am telling is, if you wanted to really promote the entrepreneurial action or startup business and commercialization of research projects, because every student is human resource, so we have to get something work done solidly out from them. In such a way, we developed 3-semester research project, 6, 7, 8, all 3-semester research project, 3 credits each, 9 credit total. In between, there's a 24 weeks industrial training. Some of the students goes to the same industry where we got the research project with the industry. So they have long period where they can solve a solid information or solid outcome from their project, an industrial problem or the community problem. For example, the Chunnaham oil was a serious problem. Somebody come up with taking the waste oil and making as industrial grease. So there were few success story among the incubation center established at the Faculty of Engineering, University of Jaffna. But we integrate most of the entrepreneurs come and deliver the lectures to their students as well. We put about 20% of the lectures from the industries or the experts from foreign professors, as well as our Peradeniya Moratua Luguna lecturers also visited and lecturers also visited and teach to our students. But just to tell you one point, even though incubation center, we all say that we somewhere established, somewhere establishing, but still not success at the full scale. So the success is, again, we ask for some seed funding or funding. At the end, everything come up with funding, but as the Vice Chancellor correctly mentioned, every rupees we are putting, we have to be responsible for getting the outcome. So the problem is at the planning stage. We have to properly propose this incubation center proposal to all the universities, because I visited at the beginning of the establishing of engineering faculty, I visited US, all top 12 universities, and really physically see how they were able to commercialize their research projects, including MIT and Caltech and Iowa State and Houston, many universities. So, because I just wanted to embed myself on how this management is taking care of that level. So, the point there is we have to bring incubation center in each and every universities. If we can do that, that's a success, and with the proper management system. Then, of course, every undergraduate project can come up to some level, then they can take it further up to the commercialized level. Of course, success rate may be 5 to 10% or sometimes 2 to 5%. But even that small percentage will make a big impact. So for that, I will be very pleased if this forum can recommend, as we have the Vice Chancellor also, we can recommend to the National Planning Department to establish the incubation center with little bit seed money, little bit money every year putting in, will bring some good level at the end of the day, about 10 years' time. That is one request. Second thing, as you correctly mentioned, the solar manufacturing, I'm touching up some of other areas as well, just to give you a couple of 3 points. I think in the past, as the Vice Chancellor and Mr. Hasha informed, there were a lot of initiative, especially on solar manufacturing side, but that was linked up with mostly on science faculty people. I think IFS Kandy, Jaffna University Science Faculty Professors, and he also Rohini University Science Faculty Professors with Professor Siva Sivanandan from US laboratories. So there was some initiative. We can link up and see where they stop, and we can proceed further on that manufacturing, because which is essentially important, and you have correctly identified that one in your project as well. Then the other part I just wanted to say is one more point. As an electrical engineer in the country, the solar grid integration become a big challenging. A lot of problems even CB had not many solar power plant because a lot of intermittent natures. It is because in their planning, long-term planning itself, there were no concern about renewable energy integration. At that time it was planned. Now we are using the plan which was developed a couple of years ago or a couple of decades ago. But they are updating every year. But now only they are targeting, we have to integrate the renewable energy so that the long-term planning, transmission line planning goes to the rural area. Normally they don't go to the rural area because transmission is very expensive as well. So now you can see the Mannar Wind Park, the transmission line has gone up to Wind Park and absorbed 100 megawatt wind park. Wind power plant. So likewise, I think at the beginning of the planning itself, we have to integrate that. Otherwise, Ceylon Electricity Board also will say that, no, I can't absorb this much. This is the limitation, so many grid limitations and so on. So we have to hit the long-term transmission planning. I think through the Ministry of Power and Energy, it can be accommodated. I think there were a lot of expert committee in that, and they are working on that as well. Maybe you can give us one of the comment from this project. Say, long-term plan, some kind of renewable energy absorption need to be focused. Then accordingly, the long-term generation or transmission plan is made. Then the transmission grid will ready to absorb, or the distribution grid will ready to absorb the renewable energy absorption. So that is another one. And also, I think for the funding part, research and development, of course, I am also one of the person who always asks for the funding after becoming a dean. Part and parcel of the administration, I can understand how difficult it is getting the funding from the government or the institution or the university, because they are deliberately need funding for many other undergraduate projects. So I think somewhere we have to target the planning again. National Planning Department need to be strengthened with the valid reason to put a little bit more money for the research and development and commercialization together. Then they will understand that there's a direct benefit to the country, economical development. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. So these are the 4 discussion points. I think now 12:30. So thank you very much for providing your thoughts on these 4 points. And we expected 2 ministers to be here and UGC chairman, vice chairman to be here, but they assured whatever we have discussed here, they will take into consideration, and we don't want to, in my personal opinion, we just all the time, if there's a conference, we are talking, we are telling, we have discussions, but there should be a follow-up. So your thoughts are recorded, and we will communicate with you your thoughts, and we will make the points, and we will communicate with them. They have assured they will attend, so we will communicate with them our thoughts on these areas, important areas with regard into our national development. So thank you very much, and
Thank you very much, sir. Finally, we came to the last event of the inauguration ceremony. We are invited to Dr. Kumar Jayavikrama, the project manager, SriLanka project, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon to everyone. Dear distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored and lucky to have this opportunity to give vote of thanks to this April gathering. We first should grateful to European Union Erasmus Plus project that is enriching lives, opening minds, for creating this type of grant programs which allow partnerships and collaborations from everywhere in the world to share the know-how. It is my great pleasure to thank Ms. Sevandiapa, representative of Her Excellency Denis Chaibi, delegation of the European Union to the Sri Lankan and Maldives. Please convey our most sincere, most gratitude to Her Excellency Denis Chaibi. He visited us at the last year when we got the grant, and his encouragement and thoughts very much helpful, and we look forward to seeing him in future events. I am so privileged to extend my most sincere gratitude to our special guest of the ceremony, Vice Chancellor, University of Ruhuna, sir, for your advice, dedication, continuous support and guidance throughout the application process, grant agreement, even attend to the various approval and recognition while out the office. So I can remember, actually we could sign the final grant approval just the day itself that we got final chance to sign. So our Vice Chancellor signed the agreement on his vehicle. So that kind of barriers we had to come across to this stage. So thank you very much, sir, for helping us and always answering to our points and encouraging us. I should not forget these great partners, Professor Imad Farak from GCU, and where Dr. Galapati did his PhD, and they were the people who initiated this proposal. I must thankful to Professor Atalage and Dr. Sumit Baduge, be a mentor and molding us to bring this project proposal to a successful project that will benefit whole country. And I also would like to highlight the support and collaboration of our foreign project partners, the coordinators of Politecnico di Torino and their team, coordinators of University of Northumbria, UK, and their team, coordinator of UVT in Romania and their team. Thank you very much for being with us. And I must thank our local partners. So we were hurried to get this approval, sign the proposal, and you support us even night times. We talk each other, and supported very much to get the proposal stage done and finally the agreement. So I should thank you, coordinators of University of Jaffna and their team, coordinator of University of Peradeniya and their team, coordinator of Southeastern University of Sri Lanka and their team, coordinator of Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology and their team, coordinator of Sustainable Energy Authority and their team, and finally the coordinator of Sri Lanka Energy Managers Association and their team. The presence of Honorable Minister of Power, Mr. Dalasalha Pirma today as our chief guest of the event, in spite of his extremely busy schedule, is a reflection of the importance that is attendant to the commitment to the nation. So we all inspired by his gracious presence. So I must convey my sincere gratitude to him as well. So we were expecting Honorable Minister Duminda Disanayake also. He promised at the beginning, but because of various attendance, he was not here. But we expect his contribution and support to our future endeavors. And our most sincere gratitude to the special who promised to attend as a special guest to the event, Honorable Minister of Money and Capital Market and Estate Enterprise Reform, Mr. Ajit Niwat Kapral. Although he was not here, actually he gave his direct involvement to bring this project to a success, especially on making Euro account and getting all these approval, and his direct involvement to the even central bank and other processes. And we are also grateful to Honorable State Minister for Regional Cooperation, Mr. Taraka Balasuriya, for his direct involvement and accelerating the grant agreement process between the European Commission and the Sri Lankan government. From Foreign Ministry side, he helped us a lot. So our thanks to his valuable time and effort. We also hosting this event today, the big support and the approval given by the chairman of the University Grant Commission, Senior Professor Sampath Amartunga. Because the project was stuck somewhere because of some comment from Attorney General. It was very difficult to pass that. So he took right decision at the right time, and he said directly, you go. So we signed. So because this leadership and time decision, so we could successfully host this event today. We must also thank to Professor Kapila Pereira, Secretary, the Ministry of Education, for his extending wishes. He called us early and he said that he couldn't be able to attend this event. So we also thankful for his support and the guidance. There's a person who we should not forget, again, to making different approvals from government side, especially from Ministry of Education. And that is, the person is Mr. Aponsu, Director Planning, Ministry of Higher Education, who kept Dr. Galapathy in his premises until he completed the process. So he attended very closely and helped us immensely, getting various supports from all other departments we required, especially from Treasury and Central Bank approval, and accelerating the process. I should also thanks to Vice Chairman UGC who promised to attend this today. And it is my great pleasure to extend my sincere gratitude to our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Saman Nidrivira, for gracing this event and encouraging all of us with your most valuable thoughts during the discussion. Our special thanks, Dr. Nihal Hevage, to help us from the beginning to the end, making all the networks, getting support from all the external parties. And thank you so much for being with us. So without your support, this project was not successful. So we highly appreciate your invaluable cooperation. Dear Professor Vasanta, so we are grateful and lucky to have you as the coordinator. So that was his response to our email was the fastest I received. So he supported us many ways, even making all the formalities. And we are extremely thankful to your guidance and the fullest support given at all the steps of the various grant agreement process. We also should not forget the support given by Professor Champa Navaratna. So they shared the experience with us, and they were not greedy to share their documents, all this process as a pioneers of having this kind of grant to the University of Ruhuna. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for attending and gracing this event, our inauguration ceremony. It's certainly worth it to express my sincere honor and gratitude to our Dean, Faculty of Engineering, Dr. Hartha Suryachi, for being and leading post our faculty, and for helping us even to this event. Your support and your approval of some of the financial things were very much helpful. Thank you very much for being here. It is my great pleasure to give a big thank to our head of the department, Dr. Nandita Hettiarachchi, acting of the department, Dr. Indika Pereira, and Dr. Kumudu Senratna for attending this event as head of the department for interdisciplinary studies. Our special thanks to goes Mr. Jayakodi Bas, University of Puruna, and Mr. Anura, Senior Assistant Internal Auditor, University of Puruna, for helping us along the way. Also, we appreciate help from our Assistant Registrar and Assistant Bursa, making all this logistic and financial supports. So we also appreciate support from Dr. Suji Malasen, being attending yesterday and today event, and attending the discussions. So we also would like to extend our sincere gratitude to Professor Sudhira Silva, Dr. Chandana Pereira, Dr. Sarat Chandrasena, Dr. Ruwanna Kuhami, Ms. Rasika Dilhan from Department of Interdisciplinary Study for attending today's event. So I also must thankful our senior lecturers and all lecturers from department and all non-academic staff from faculty to supporting this event. I also would like to give my big thanks to our organizing committee. Without their day-night help last 3 days, this event will not be successful. I highly appreciate support given by Mr. Tennis Ranjan, Mr. Ramindu Senaviratna, Mr. Daham Lianage, Ms. Piyumi Jayamini, and Mr. SriLanka. So our two compeers, Mr. Devind and Ms. Kusumi, thank you very much for their commitment to embrace this ceremony. Our special thanks to management of Jet Twin Lighthouse Hotel for their cuisines, delicious foods, and great service. So that's the end of my vote of thanks. Thank you very much for being with us. And I should not forget one thing, because actually now, though we have written the proposal and get the grants, now there are so many other processes to be done that wastes most of our time. So I would like to propose our Vice Chancellor, if we can have a kind of office in the university. I have seen, when I was studying in Japan, I have seen they have a research office that basically support for this, all this granting process, attending all these other approval and everything. Then as academics, we should not waste our time going after each and every department, each and meeting each and every officials, waiting in office so many hours, getting to get approvals. So please initiate this our faculty, because it takes immense time to get the approval rather writing the proposals. That saves much time. I think not in our university, most of all the institute of Sri Lanka, we have this issue. So we should find solution and get this process fast and accelerated. Thank you very much.
Dear distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this is the closing of the event.
Please enjoy the lunch serving in the Cinnamon restaurant next to this hall. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice day.